All right, we get it rolling on the Krug Show. Warrior basketball game one coming to you after game one goes to the Sacramento Kings. Welcome to the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show on a Saturday night as we come to you after Warrior basketball. Warriors lose game one to the Kings. We're going to talk about it. Dan Coach Emilio is going to be in the house. We're going to have Frank Red in the house tonight. We thought we were going to have Cy in the house tonight for the first time, but he has said that he's not going to be able to make it tonight. After all, he's had a long day, so he won't be able to make it tonight. But Frank Red, Danny, and I, and there'll be no Cy tonight, no Baller tonight either. But man, we may visit, which the great John Dickinson may join us later on tonight after his post-game show. But welcome to the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show. Once again, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. 2 locations, Emeryville, open in the Emeryville Public Marketplace, and they're open in Emeryville Wednesday through Sunday, and open in Corte Madera 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. The best barbecue in all of Northern California, Pig and a Pickle. We welcome in Dan Coach Emilio. We welcome in Frank Red. Guys, good to see you, and exciting game. What an exciting first game this was. 126-123. Kings get the win. What an even game. 29-29 first quarter. Warriors win the second quarter 32-26. Kings win the third quarter 36-29. And they had a really nice run there at the end of the third quarter. Sacramento closed that third quarter on a 15-4 run, and Trey Lance really fueled that. He had 10 points in that run. And then Sac outscores the Warriors by 2 in the final quarter, 35-33. Steph Curry had a three-point attempt at the very end that could have gone but didn't. Andrew Wiggins really had a wide-open three. Wiggins played 28 minutes. He had 17 points, 7 of 16 shooting, but 8 of them were threes, and he only made the 1. And he didn't rebound anything like he did last year in the playoffs, only 3 rebounds. And he missed, to me, he had the key miss. He had the wide open 3, the great look from the perimeter there with about 10 seconds left on the clock. And Sacramento gets a 126-123 victory in game one. And, guys, I think, the first thing that jumps out to me, and, we'll just call it like we see it, De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk outplayed Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. There's no question about that. And Sacramento was +9 on the glass, specifically +8 on the offensive glass. That was one area that really helped Sacramento. And +16 points in the paint, and give Sacramento's bench credit. I really thought the Warriors had the bench advantage, but 32 for Malik Monk. He got hot in that second quarter with 15, 16 off the bench for Trey Lyles. The Kings bench had 55, 17 boards, 7 assists. And I was talking to Jason Ross this morning, and he said to say hi to you, Frank. And he was basically, I was mentioning to Ross that Malik Monk reminds me a little bit of like an Andrew Toney, going way, 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 way back to the Sixers, the man they called the Boston Strangler, in that, he can come off the bench and light it up in a hurry. And he was a key factor. You can't let Fox go off. They did. You can't let Malik Monk be huge off the bench, and they did. Both happened tonight, and the Kings get a win. What'd you guys think of it? Frank, we'll start with you.
Beautiful basketball to watch, first and foremost. I mean, really, really high-level basketball. Both teams can represent the Western Conference in the championship onto the NBA Finals. This game made me think about last year. I think I usually leave that for other folks, but I think Kerr made 2 really, really big mistakes.
What jumped out?
Well, late in the third quarter, he took Steph Curry out. They were up 5. When he brought him back in, they were down 4. It's a 9-point differential. In this situation, if you want to rest Curry, call timeout. Do not take it. No other player on the Warriors controls the tempo and puts fear in the opposition more than Steph Curry. So that was a mistake. Last year against Boston, they took him out in the second quarter in game one. Boston blitzed the Warriors. They lost game one. I think that's where the game was lost. Let's give Sack all the credit in the world for the things that you notated. They played a tremendous game, but that was a key point. The other thing is, you and I and Dan talked about the last podcast. They got a bird's eye look at Trey Lance to get him in the scouting report. There's no way that this guy should score 16 points out of 4 for 6 from three-point range. That's how close these teams are. So give Zach all the credit, but I think the Warriors made 2 crucial mistakes, and those are the ones that I saw.
Danny, what'd you think? I mean, I'll say this. Sacramento's bench was very, very efficient. Not only did Malik Monk, he made 8 of 13, but Alex Len played a nice little role tonight. He made both of his shot attempts. Red just referred to Lyles there. 6 of 8 from the field for Lyles. And not only that, Monk went to the line 14 times more than any other player in this game and made all 14 of his free throws. Danny, what stood out to you?
Well, 2 things. The first thing happened in the second quarter. Malik Monk picked up his 3rd foul, and they took him out briefly, came back in, and I thought the Warriors should have started doing some switches to get him one-on-one with Curry or Poole and let them drive on him, because he would have been playing soft because he wouldn't have wanted to pick up that 4th foul, and they would either had a bucket to the lane or a dish off for an easy layup, dunk, whatever. I don't know. They didn't take one shot at putting one-on-one Monk with the ball. You got to put him in switches to do that. So that was the first thing I thought they should have done. The second thing, I thought the closing lineup. I think DiVincenzo should have been in there at the end of that game. I like Wiggins. He played a great game. But if Wiggins has one weakness, it's his 3-point shot. It takes a while to get that shot down. And the other thing I think that they should have done at the end, when they got the rebound, they were down by 1. Shot clock was off. I know Kerr doesn't like to call timeout in that situation, but he's one of the best coaches in basketball at setting up plays coming out of timeouts. And I think I would have wanted to call a timeout, get composure, and set up a shot, with maybe 5 seconds left, 4 or 5 seconds left, so that if you miss, you get the rebound. You still have time, but you don't give Sacramento. I thought the shot that Wiggins took, he had to take it. It was wide open, but it was with 10 seconds left still. I would have just liked to seen a timeout call when they got that rebound, take it over to half court, and they would have had probably, 16 seconds, 15 seconds left. I wouldn't even been opposed to seeing him take the last shot, Curry with a drive or, a floater, something. But they were down by 1. They only needed a bucket.
I'll tell you the other thing that, it's unfortunate because he seems like he can have a huge impact in this series, but Kuminga only gets 4 minutes in the first half. And it's like, come on, Steve, it's got to be a way to get Kuminga more than 4 minutes. This guy's a finisher. He's an athlete. He can rise up in traffic and get a really good look at the bucket every time. I wanted to see him like 30 minutes. I was hoping they would feature him, a lot in as far as minutes goes. And 4 minutes for him to be kind of like he was the guy whose minutes were taken away for Wiggins' return. The other thing I wanted to see is and I mentioned it, in the pregame. I talked about it a lot this week. When you've been gone for 7 weeks, I know Wiggins was shooting 40% from 3 before he left. But when you've been gone for 7 weeks, go to the hole, right? Go to the hole. Why do you go to the hole? Because you're already really quick and explosive, but now you've got fresher legs. That's your real advantage. Your advantage is not your shot is smoothed out. You haven't been playing. Go to the hole. Your advantage is how I think his advantage anyway on this team is to put it on the deck. And we're talking about a 6'8" player that can get to the rim almost anytime he wants. And yet 8 threes on a night they weren't falling. I don't know. To me, I wanted to see it. The other sequence I thought that was kind of key. Yeah, I mean, that's not good. I mean, the other sequence that kind of stood out to me was I forget exactly where the Warriors had a look at a three, and then it cycled back to Kuminga, and
Right.
he got it, and it was like he just took it was Wiggins missed a three. Golden State got the rebound. It cycled back to Kuminga, and he had a lot of space. I mean, he was standing at the 3-point line, but man, there was a ton of space there, and it's like put it on the deck and go to the hole. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody in the league that can stop that guy when he wants to go to the hole. Instead, he settles for a three there. To me, that three was that was a big sequence in the game. And that it was it was basically Malik Monk drove and scored off the glass to make it 105-105 with 6:30 left. And then that next sequence happened. And Wiggins has a good look at a three, misses. And then the Warriors hustled a rebound. I forget who it was. And it cycles back to Kuminga. And to me, it's like go attack the bucket, go to the line, get the for sure two. He settled for a three. Wiggins a couple times down after that missed a three. Barnes then had the lay in to give Sacramento a 2-point game. I had 2-point lead. I just I don't know. To me, I thought that was a big sequence. That was a big momentum shift right there because they got two good looks out of three. And that second one, it was like, oh my God, Kuminga, just drive in and jam it. I mean, he had one guy between him and the bucket. So just a frustrating game overall. But you got to give Sacramento for the Warriors. But as far as you got to give Sacramento some credit. I mean, this was their first playoff game. De'Aaron Fox making his playoff debut, and he played with a ton of poise. I mean, he's an explosive player. And Sacramento's bench, which I thought would be outplayed by Golden State, they outplayed Golden State and produced 55, 17, and 7. The scary part is Sabonis can be a whole lot better. He had 12 points and 16 rebounds. I thought the other big sequence was the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
Frank said it right there. I mean, Steph was out, 15-4 run, the momentum shift, the crowd got into it.
Yep.
The game seemed like it was the crowd was in control and everything was kind of under control until that run right there.
Yeah, if they left Steph in, they had a 10-point lead. Should have left him in, and see where you're at the end of the three. At the end of three, hopefully you're still up 8-10. Now you can give Steph, a couple minutes, see how far you can take it in the fourth quarter. If they make a run, call timeout, stop the momentum. If it gets down to 5 or 6, bring Curry back in. But they let him right back in the game, and Sacramento took a 1-point lead into the fourth, and all the momentum was in their favor, and they still left Steph on the bench. I know he was trying to give him his, 5-6 minutes of playing time rest that he does, and which is 10 minutes of, real time. But it's playoffs. I mean, these are the games you got to play 40 minutes. He only played 37.
Yeah, it really bothers me, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just because that's the ball game. De'Aaron Fox played 40 minutes. Steph played 37. They say those 3 minutes. No, those 3 minutes, that was the game.
Yeah, they were
that was the game.
Up by 10 with 2.5 minutes to go.
They're up in control. They have everybody under control, and you take Steph out. And we saw it last year. Now, I'm sure they'll make some adjustments. There's no back-to-back, but that was a big deal. And, we're kind of cutting hairs here because both teams played their asses off. Yeah. Both teams played well, but that was crucial. And like I said before, Trey Lyles, 4 for 6. I've seen Monk score 35 points. He's capable of going off and wrecking your defense. Not Trey Lyles. That was inexcusable.
Well, I'll tell you one other thing that jumped out to me is when the Warriors, who defends Fox the best on the Warriors? It's Wiggins and Payton. Mm-hmm. And with Wiggins and Payton both sitting, he had 10 points in a 5-minute run there in that third quarter.
Right.
So I mean that he heated up with their two primary, Fox neutralizers sitting down. So I'll
you're
say this.
looking.
I'll say this though. It's a way more interesting series with the
Yeah.
Kings getting game one than it would have been if the Warriors got game one. If the Warriors get game one, it's like, uh-oh, here we go. This is going to be a quick series. Sacramento, doesn't regular season doesn't mean anything. The fact of the matter is, neither side was, that whole narrative. What does the regular season mean? And there was people saying it means everything, and the Kings are way better. And then the other people were saying it means absolutely nothing, and the Warriors will flip a switch. Truth be told, it means a little. You know what I mean? The regular season means a little. Does it mean everything? No. Does it mean nothing? No. You know what I mean? It's like it's really it means a little. I mean, there's a reason that Sacramento had 48 wins. And we saw it tonight. Sabonis is big time. Fox is taking games over in the fourth quarter. Outside of DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox, is the preeminent fourth quarter guy right now, or maybe even including DeRozan. Those are the two guys that I think of when I think of guys taking it over in the fourth quarter. And then I thought I wanted the Warriors to get Malik Monk in the offseason, and Sacramento wound up getting him, and it was a great pickup by Monty McNair. There aren't too many guys in the league. There used to be a lot of guys like this, Vinny the microwave,
Right.
guys who could come off the bench and just get it going. You know what I mean? And I think of a couple guys recent years, like Lou Williams, just one of these scorers, just a guy off the bench that, oh my God, he's just filling it up immediately. And I always have I'm always so amazed by the skill level of these bench scorers. To me, it's like almost in some ways, it's one of the more amazing parts about NBA basketball guys is when you see a guy come off the bench and he's cold and he just starts lighting it up, And Malik Monk is that kind of player. And I just thought the Warriors, between all the defenders they had plus GP2, would be able to throw a blanket on him. But I'll say this right now. If Malik Monk goes for 30 plus a game in this series, it's going to be a tough series for Golden State to win.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Monk and Fox, they outscored Curry and Thompson 70-51. 70 points between those two guys. The other thing that is kind of scary is Herter and Murray were 0 for 8 from 3. I don't know if they're going to do that again, Monday night.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. I mean, game one was about Fox and about Monk and about Lyles and what Frank said, that key late third quarter momentum shift. With Steph out, Lyles got hot. Fox got hot in the third. And, I thought the Warriors – what do you guys think of the first half? I mean, kind of an interesting first quarter. 29-29. Clay came out. Seemed like he was feeling it early. I really liked the way Klay Thompson looked at points in this game. He didn't have a huge game, but there were times where he really looked very confident, like Clay of old. And then the Warriors were up, 6 at half, 61-55. And if you looked at it at halftime, I was thinking, you know what? The 55 points to hold this Sacramento team to 55 in the first half after the way they've been scoring, I was feeling pretty good about how things were looking. The Kings starters, by the way, began 0 for 10 from the three-point line in that first half. I made that note at halftime. And then, Kings led by 1 going to the fourth quarter. But it was really the late third where the momentum shifted. And I thought Golden State looked real confident down the stretch. Curry missed a couple big shots. But the big miss to me was Wiggins. And I don't know. Personally, I would just like to see Wiggins be a little bit more. I mean, I thought he looked really sharp in this game for how long he's been off. I was thinking he was going to be rusty and looking rusty, but he looked really sharp early. But I just was hoping that he would drive more and not settle for shots if they weren't falling. And they weren't falling, and yet he hoisted 8 threes. So, I don't know. I mean, that's the one thing about Poole and Wiggins. I mean, and Wiggins, I was also thinking, man, is Wiggins going to be like the last year's Wiggins? Last year's Wiggins would pull 13 rebounds. I mean, tonight he had 3.
Yeah, I was surprised that he played 28 minutes. Hindsight 2020, but had he taken that instead of that 3, which was wide open, he also had a clear path to drive right to the hole. And, down 1, you could drive it to the rack, either, get fouled, get 2 shots, or, dunk it, whatever. I just feel like for him to take 8 threes, it's almost like Sacramento was going to let him, have those shots because
which is shocking because he was a 40% guy earlier this year, but that's 7 weeks off. That's all, I mean, I think that was a smart play as well. Frank, what'd you think about the way Brown had the Kings prepared to defend Wiggins?
Excellent. And I think your point is well taken. I mean, this is a make-or-miss league. If he makes a 3-point shot, the Warriors are up 2, then they're probably in a pretty good defense, a pretty good position to set their defense. But, nobody was in front of him. He could have elevated and dunked on the whole team.
That's what I thought too. Just
so that's a play that I'm sure he wants back. I don't like saying this, but it's true. I just think that Mike Brown had the Kings a little tighter than the Warriors. Tonight.
Tight in a good way, you mean?
Yeah, tight in a good way, meaning like playing free. I mean, if you go to like the timeouts and you have the coaches talking, they're reeling a little bit, and Mike Brown is like, "Let it fly, fellas, let it fly." I mean,
he did encourage them to be aggressive offensively.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen Monk score 35 points. We've seen him shoot 3 for 17. So whatever the mojo that they have, it was flourishing throughout that team. Now, again, I mean, aesthetically, the Warriors look better to me. You made a point about Kuminga getting more minutes. Definitely wanted to see that because they were terrorizing the Kings on the backboards with offensive rebounds. They were more physical than Sacramento was, and Mike Brown took DeMontis out, I believe, for that reason because of the energy of the Warriors front court players was just overwhelming to him. Game 2, you got to be able to turn Monk's water off. De'Aaron Fox, I didn't know he was that good. I knew he was a good player, fringe all-star, but I did not know he was that good. This kid made big shots all night, and he was ready to go toe-to-toe with Steph. So look at where he's scoring. He's scoring most of his points at the elbows, right? Yep. Which means you got to take the ball out of his hands and get into your rotation defense. The rotation defense for the Warriors tonight was not very good. Draymond was the only standout I saw most of the game on defense. So they have their work cut out for them. I think they can do it, but give Sack credit.
What did you think of how? What did you think how the Warriors started with DiVincenzo on Fox?
I love Dante. I don't have a problem with Dante checking anybody. I just think that you just got to make adjustments. You got to check the floor of the game, coach, and then if he can't handle them, you got other players. You got Kuminga. You got Wiggins. You got a bunch of guys.
You got Peyton. But I don't think they have anybody really. That was my concern coming in that could really contain Fox. He's so quick, and then he can either beat you off the dribble or he could pull up, like Frank said, at the elbow.
Well, he's not effective when he's not on the elbow. So again, if he has it going, every NBA team has rotation defenses. Run at him and get the ball out of his hands and let somebody else beat you.
Yeah, they needed to trap him. That's what they were doing with Steph.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how about use Kuminga's size in some of these defensive looks? I mean, only 10 minutes for Kuminga, and you get both of their their relatively short shooters are going off. You don't think it would help to have Kuminga out there? I mean, I absolutely think that, especially since Sacramento is going to take 32 threes, they're going to take a bunch of threes. The Warriors took 50 threes. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of threes. Who's going to chase down those long rebounds in the middle of the floor? I think it should be Kuminga. Now, Kuminga played 10 minutes. He didn't grab a single rebound. I mean, if there's one kind of disappointing stat line, it's Kuminga tonight. 10 minutes, no rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, only 8 points. I mean, you're talking about one of the most athletic guys on the floor. So, I don't know. That bothered me. I'll tell you the other thing I thought was effective for Sacramento is the use of Alex Len, the Maryland center. I mean, he played 13 minutes. He was plus 10, 4 points, 7 rebounds in 13 minutes and a block shot.
He's a big body.
He absolutely is.
That's
he
why
was.
He's in the game. He was more physical than Sabonis. The Warriors are running all over Sabonis. He was missing chippies. And Alex Len was like a top 5, top 7 pick. This guy has talent, and he's athletic, and he showed that tonight. So he's somebody who you have to account for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Go ahead, Danny.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Warriors win the next 3. But I also wouldn't be surprised to see them split the first 4 with the Kings getting one of the games in San Francisco.
Well, the Kings how about this? The Kings had more road victories than any other team in the Western Conference.
Right.
They had more road victories than they had home victories this year. This one was, once again, I mean, this is what happened tonight was exactly what you didn't want to have happen. They're the two guys who can really fill it up for Sacramento are Monk and Fox. And now going into game 2, they both have the confidence that they can do it against Golden State. So Golden State's going to have to figure out a way to get to throw the rhythm. I mean, I would put GP2 on Monk and try to really snuff him out. But I mean, Monk is he's such a great scorer. I mean, he attacks the hole, all kinds of fakes and pump fakes, and he's just a scorer. The guy's a big time scorer. Kevin F says, when is the next Grant Napier show? Call up Cone. Grant Napier is going to be on tomorrow morning at 9:30. So 9:30 tomorrow, Grant Napier will be in the house reacting to game 1, and it should be interesting. I'm sure he's gonna talk about a number of different things. The one thing for me in this one that I'll think about is, man, if Golden State could get they couldn't really get a better look there at the end. You just have to knock it down. I mean, they got a really good look from Wiggins. He got it was a wide open 3. Mm-hmm. It's a wide open 3. So I mean, it's the too many threes for Wiggins. The points in the paint and the offensive glass definitely points of concern as well. But the scary thing is that now you've got Monk in rhythm and Fox in rhythm. Do you see a game 2 adjustment, Frank?
Oh, definitely. I think as you and Dan alluded to, the Warriors would try a myriad of guys on Monk. He had a lot of open room, to operate, and he's a rhythm player. So I think he's going to be in the scouting report. I think that's the problem with the Warriors was they were not as attentive for certain guys who could hurt them. Even De'Aaron Fox, a lot of those 25-footers that he was making, he was open. You got to get up on the guys. So like you were talking about putting GP2. GP2 guards you from 30 feet out. So whomever they have to put on these shooters, they have to do it to take their confidence away. You can't have Trey Lance coming off the bench going 4 for 6 from 3-point range. Harrison Barnes played a hell of a game tonight. He really did. He made big shots when they needed him. So I give him credit. I see the Warriors guarding better than they guarded tonight. And I think that should put them in a better position. It came down to one shot. If Wiggins had it over to do again, he would drive to the basket and probably dunk that. Yes, so defensive changes I see more than offensive changes.
The concern for me is that Murray was so good. And, man, there was a huge adjustment. I mean, talk about the difference for a rookie playing in his first NBA playoff game. Guy was making 41% from 3, and now he comes out today. He plays 16 minutes, takes 5 shots, makes 1, takes 3 threes, missed them all, and still Sacramento found a way. You got to think that he's going to get it rolling at some point in this series. I think that's a concern. As far as Kerr's rotation, what do you think of Kerr's decision? He basically gave Wiggins a lot of minutes, 28 minutes for Wiggins, 22 for Poole off the bench, 20 for Payton, 10 for Kuminga, and he played 9 players. So we didn't see Jermichael Green, no Lamb, no Moody. Well, what do you think of Kerr's rotation outside of the way he used Steph?
Yeah, I think I would have given Kuminga a little more minutes, Wiggins a little less. 28 minutes for Wiggins to 10 for Kuminga. I would have liked seeing that more like 15 for Kuminga, maybe 20 3, given that extra 5 minutes for Kuminga, let him get in a rhythm. I thought Wiggins played an outstanding first half. I thought his second half was not so, wasn't the greatest. First half, he was making things happen. He was, making shots. He was going to the rim. He's going to the, taking it to the hole. He was putting up floaters. He was playing good defense. He was, making some help create some steals. But, Kuminga started to play a little well, and he was taking it to the hole a couple times, made that nice move where he put it up with his left hand, and then he was gone. He was like, where'd he go? They didn't, I just think sometimes you got to get guys in their rhythm. I never think you should take a guy out after he's made a shot. I think it was, can't remember what point it was, but Curry had just hit a 3 and then he came out. Don't take Steph out after he hits a 3 because he's going to get hot. Leave him in. I thought Poole played a pretty decent game, and I don't think he got enough minutes tonight. He was 4 of 10, 2 for 5 from the 3. I thought, he made that one good move where he hit that 3 where he kind of took him off the dribble and then he stepped back. I thought he played a little more under control. He had the one play where he kind of lost it when he went down like he does a lot, but I would have given Poole a little more rope tonight. I thought, you needed some more outside shooting because they were trapping Steph a lot and he wasn't able to get as many shots. I mean, Steph, he did shoot 14 threes, but few of them were kind of forced, deeper shots than, he didn't look like he was in his rhythm when he took a couple of long ones that I thought he kind of forced those.
The Warrior bench shot 3 of 17 on threes.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a lot. That's not good.
No, it's not good. I didn't have a problem with Curry's rotation in terms of how many minutes. I mean, Wiggins is a champion. He was damn an MVP last year. They said he looked good in practice. Kuminga is an emerging player. I don't know why there's not a place to maybe play both of them together for a couple of minutes. So I have more problem with their execution defensively as opposed to who's on the court. The Warriors have a lot of good defensive players, particularly one-on-one. DiVincenzo, Kuminga, you got Wiggins, a bunch of guys. So I have more of a problem with how they did not execute, and they didn't really make adjustments to get the ball out of Monk's hands, or even Fox for that matter. So that's my gripe. My gripe is they were doing the same thing with their personnel and not showing different looks. And as a result, they got really comfortable out there.
Yeah, Fox has got the ability with the ball on a string to get where he wants to go. I think if you asked Kings fans when the trade was made if they could have substituted Fox for Halliburton, I think like 95% of them would have at the time.
I was one of them. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people were like, "Oh man, why couldn't you have moved Fox in that deal?" But really, if you wanted to say what's the biggest singular impact of the Mike Brown era? It's him empowering De'Aaron Fox.
Absolutely.
By putting the ball in his hands and believing in him and playing fast and committing to it and pumping him full of confidence and just basically saying, "Hey, you're going to be the engine for us." And tonight he rewarded him. To me, the Kentucky duo is the story here. There's just no question.
Yeah. Do you have the stats for the fourth quarter free throws, Larry? How many fourth quarter free throws the Warriors shot to the Kings?
I don't, but I know the Kings.
Wasn't a lot.
The reason I say that, the Kings got into early foul trouble in the fourth quarter. The Warriors were in the bonus with like 8 or 9 minutes to go, and they didn't take advantage of it, in my opinion. I would have, once the Kings got 4 fouls, okay, next foul, you're in the bonus. Let Curry and Poole get those guys driving to the rim and, have
he
guys.
He a couple of drives, though. Steph drived a little bit. He actually got fouled on one and they didn't even call it.
I know.
So,
at the end of the game, closer to the end of the game, he made that layup and looked like he got hit pretty good and they didn't call it.
Right.
And I'm like, what does he got to do? Monk gets 14 free throws and Curry gets 2.
Yeah, he definitely got fouled on that one.
Yeah.
The corner three, the deep corner three that he hit. I mean, the guy high-fived him. You could see
Oh,
that.
yeah, that was
808
an
Niners
unbelievable
says Kerr
shot.
stayed with Looney too long, and Wiggs looked good, but a step slow. They need to stay small in this series, and Dante needs to play more. I kind of agree with that one. I'd like to see them stay small as well. I think you got to contend with the speed of the Kings. 95.7 Brian is weighing in. He said, "Hey guys, exciting game one through and through. I've seen a lot of criticism regarding Wiggins' last three. Just to clarify, it was the correct look and a good look. Sometimes shots don't fall. Yeah, I mean we're not saying that that didn't get a good look. He got an incredible look and didn't knock it down. That's really it. I mean it is what it is. But yeah, I mean he shot that. I mean he had plenty of time. I mean if anything that was a blown closeout by Sacramento. What do you leave in? What do you leave in a guy that shoots 40% from three earlier this year wide open? But maybe their game plan early in this series is, hey, let's make Wiggins prove that he's not rusty on the perimeter shots, especially late in the game.
Sometimes his shot does tend to have
He's streaky.
Not much arc. It's more on a line. What'd you think of that? I mean, Clay had. I didn't go back and look at it again. I should have. But did Clay have an open layup, or was he contested and he just flung it out to Wiggins? Some people said that maybe he had a shot at just taking it and laying it in. But I know someone was there in front of him. I just couldn't know.
He would have had to rise up and hit a kind of an awkward shot, probably.
Kind of maybe over
sort of contested. Yeah. I mean,
there
are
plenty to the basket. Wiggins,
what's that?
Wiggins had a driveway to the basket, and
Wiggins did.
That's what he could have come. Yeah, done a tomahawk, just But
Spencer said the Len block on Green was tremendous. Yeah, I thought Alex Len, was kind of the surprise factor. If you said, what surprised you about today, that he went to Len. I didn't think they would go to the big man, and that Len was effective. And I think we'll probably see more of him. I thought Lyles, I saw him late in the year in a couple games, and I saw him against the Warriors in the game late in the year. He's kind of, that was kind of an underrated pickup. 6'10" guy who can shoot the basketball, knows how to play. He definitely looked good tonight. I thought Lyles was a big part of that late third quarter run.
And he's a small ball five.
Right.
he's a part of their offense. Playing the five position, you throw the ball back to him behind the defense, and he's rising up and making that 3-point shot. So he's a versatile player.
Now Sabonis played. I know he's normally plays 35 minutes, but it looks like the plan tonight was, Looney played 32. Was every time Sabonis was out there, you were going to have Looney out there. So I wonder if that's going to be more Mike Brown's strategy, because knowing that they get the ball down to Sabonis, I mean, Looney did a good job guarding him. Without Looney in there, I don't think anybody can stop Sabonis. Maybe Draymond, but then that makes the wings a little weaker, and that could make guys like Herter wide open, or Murray. Draymond was kind of, he's that guy that can play center field, that reads everything, but if Looney's not in there, you're forcing Draymond to now stay down and guard Sabonis. So I think that's going to be Mike Brown's kind of playbook. Is he knows that the Warriors don't have anybody else to guard Sabonis, because he's not. Sabonis is, what is Sabonis, 6'11" or
6'11"? Yes.
Yeah, but he's strong and powerful. Once he gets position, Looney's good on him because Looney's strong and can lean into him. But without Looney out there, I don't know. I mean, I think if they take Looney out, that gives Sacramento a big advantage, because I think you're going to have open wings like Herter and Murray. And those guys were 0 for 8 again tonight. I don't think that happens Monday night.
Here's the thing, though. You only got 5 guys on the court at the same time. So we could talk about Murray and Herter. Then that takes Lyles and maybe Monk off the court. So
true.
Sacramento played about as well as they can play tonight. I don't think they can play better than they played tonight. I thought the Warriors played really good basketball, above average basketball, but there were some key points where they did not execute offensively and defensively. I know the Warriors can play better, you know.
And I think they come back in game 2 more desperate.
Well, I mean, you would think so. They're down 1, but you know, give Sacramento credit. I mean, they executed their tails off tonight. They played good basketball, and they took advantage of the Warriors when they made mistakes, either with substitutions, leaving guys wide open, being in proper spots, attacking the basket like you're talking about. They did everything right for the most part.
Low Steve says only got to bother Fox is GP2. Few can guard him in the whole league. 95.7 Brian says there's a lot to take away from game 1. He says, I'm looking at Draymond. He had 11 assists, but if he doesn't go 1 for 5 from the field and misses only 3 and only score 4 points, they win game 1 with ease. They do need some more points from Draymond. If he doesn't have to go for 20, but if he could go for 12, that would help them dramatically.
Do you think they, once they got up 10 late in the third and they took Curry out, do you think the team relaxed a little bit, thinking, okay, this is their first game, Sac, we're starting to put them away, they're going to fold, and all of a sudden, 2 minutes later, boom, Sacramento's up by 1. It seems like
I thought Sacramento's crowd got into it.
They let them back in.
Yeah, I thought that would, but right what you're talking about right there, Dan, I think that was the sequence when the crowd started to really kind of fuel the Kings a little bit. Let me ask you guys this question. And you might, when I initially ask it, think, well, Krug, it's an obvious answer. But I don't know if it is. Who is game 2 more vital for the Warriors or for the Kings? And I ask that because, let's be honest. If the Warriors get a split in this opening 2 games, they kind of got what they wanted out of it, right? So you could say, they're still, if they get game 2, they're still on par to get a split. If the Warriors split the first 2, I think it's a major advantage for Golden State coming back to for the next 2, where I could see Golden State coming back from 0-2 and still winning this series. I kind of think game 2's bigger for the Kings, just simply from the standpoint of, you go down 0-2, yeah, but you're going home. I still believe Golden State believes they can win this thing down 0-2. Where if Golden State gets game 2, I think the Kings still have some question whether they can win the series. That's my belief on it. Maybe I have too much belief in Golden State's ability to be dominant at home because I've seen them so dominant at home. And Sacramento's a good road team, so there's that factor as well. Who's game 2 more important for in your guys' opinion?
You gonna take it, Dan? You want me to go?
Go ahead, Frank.
I think it's actually more important to Sacramento for the reasons that you alluded to. First and foremost, the nation got an opportunity to see what the Sacramento fans are all about. That place was rocking. Yeah. And I think that was a factor. I think you said that, Dan. So when I look at these 2 teams, the question that I have is who can play better than they played tonight? I don't think Sac can play better than they played tonight. I don't. I've seen the Warriors play better. So, it's imperative to me for Sacramento to win game 2, to have even more momentum, more confidence. They only had 18 turnovers. They only had 18 assists tonight. They had 18 assists and 13 turnovers. That's really not great fundamental offense.
No, I know.
It's not. So they had 2 guys to go off. Generally, in NBA playoff basketball, the really good defensive teams, which the Warriors are when they need to be, you can turn somebody's water off. So when you look at 70 points being scored by the Sacramento Kings backcourt, can they duplicate that regardless of who's on the court? I don't think they can. So they need to find a way to prove me wrong and go out there and really put it on the Warriors again. I know the Warriors can play better at home. So if you play a team on the road and you have a split and you play well in both games, you feel good about yourself. So I think it's more important to Sacramento.
Danny, what do you think? Where are you on this one? I mean, you can make an argument. I could see the argument either way. It's not like it's a crazy argument.
Yeah, it really is either way. I mean, I think it's a 50-50 toss-up because I think the Warriors, just because it is on the road and they've struggled on the road, I don't know if they want to go down. I mean, obviously they don't want to, but being 0-2 down, now you realize you're going to have to win either game 5. Well, you realize you're going at least 6 if you lose 0-2. But I just look at this game tonight and I look and say, like Frank said, 17, 18 assists, whatever they had, Sacramento. Warriors had 31 assists.
Yeah.
Where the game seemed to me, where it was lost, was the offensive rebounds. I mean, the Kings got 17 offensive rebounds. How many second chance points did they get? The Warriors got to clean that up, because if they rebound, I think the Warriors, even if they don't win the rebound, but if they're within 1-2 or it's close to even, I think the Warriors win pretty easily.
Would you guys? Car God says Kerr's a stubborn mofo. We got this one from Mikey, Mikey says this L is on Kerr. Is that too far? Is that going too far? What do you guys think?
I think he didn't have his best game. I think
he hasn't maybe had his best season, has he?
Probably not. I mean, I'm judging by everything. With that said, I think he's brilliant, man. The guy, out of timeouts, he's rock solid. He's very organized. I really admire Steve Kerr as a coach, but as one of the chat buddies alluded to, he's fixated on certain things, and minutes distribution is one of those things where he goes, I gotta get such and such out of the game. He's at his minute level, and for everything that they dog Dusty Baker about in baseball, right? Dusty Baker is like, yo, I'll take all the bullets, all right, but I'm going to manage how I feel. I think you got to have some feel in managing and coaching. And Kerr's actually talked about that recently about, I just went with my gut. I went with this. Get off the minutes restriction deal. Feel the pulse of the game, because that was the deciding factor. Mike Brown played his best player 40 minutes. He didn't care about the minutes restriction. He didn't care about how tired he was. He let him play because he's a star. Curry is a star of the Warriors. If he had been out there, I believe in the late third quarter and rode it to the fourth, I think the Warriors would have won this game.
Danny, you've been a defender of Kerr most of the year. I mean, Kerr's got an unbelievable resume. We know that. But that aside, how much do you hold Kerr accountable for this one tonight?
Well, like I say, I
no Moses Moody, didn't play GP2
I was just going to
very much.
mention Moody. I think Moody you might see in game 2. I would stick Moody out there for a few minutes at least, see how he can do. The problem where the Warriors run into, Poole is a threat on offense, but he's such a liability on defense. You've got to stop Monk from going off. Moody is got long. What is Moody like? Got a 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah, very long arms. I mean, he plays 6'9". Let's just say.
Yeah, that bothers people in the passing lanes when you've got those long wings. I would give Moody some more playing time, even if it's just for a spurt here and there. I definitely think you'll see Moody at home. You see a lot of these role player guys that play well at home, but I wouldn't mind. He played 9. I think you can give Moody some minutes, especially if Monk and Fox are hot.
Who are you going to take out?
Who do you? I mean, it's easy to say who you want in, but who do you want out?
Yeah, it's tough because they're guys that are very similar when you got as far as the type of position they play with DiVincenzo and Peyton and Moody, but I'm not saying
nobody played bad.
Nobody played bad. No,
so I don't know where the minutes are coming from. I think next year
it really is a tough situation.
Yeah,
it really is. It's a tough balance. It's tough to play more than 9 in the playoffs. It really is. I think 10 is about the max you can go. I don't know. Maybe when you're getting out rebounded like they were tonight, maybe you got to give Jermichael Green a little bit of time because he's a presence down low. And they don't have.
How about this? How about Wiggins just rebound better?
Yeah, I bet box it out and just go and get the ball.
That's what they need to work on.
Come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, I
Wiggins-
mean, how about this? How about Wiggins takes a few less threes and just picks up his points off the glass? That's what I would say. Hey, you know what? Let's not, you've been gone for 7 weeks. Let's not take 8 threes and make one. Let's get on the glass, do some work, and get some putbacks.
I also think that was.
I think that would make him a better player, more efficient player.
I think they hounded Clay and they hounded Curry. They were guarding them out on the 3-point line. I think they were going to say, okay, let Wiggins beat us from the 3.
Well, this is in my mind, guys. If Danny just said something that really jogged a thought. He's absolutely right. Sacramento was really extending on Steph and Clay, and the guys that they were extending on them for the most part were quicker than them, so they were having a hard time shaking those guys. Mm-hmm. To me, the solution there is get the ball. If they're going to create that much room by getting that far out on Steph and Clay, get Kuminga moving to the bucket, get him the ball, and have him jam it in the lane 5 or 6 times.
Same with Wiggins.
And send him to the line. Wiggins and Kuminga should be getting the ball rolling downhill, with all that extra space, inside of Fox, inside of Monk, inside of whoever they've got out there in the backcourt, and just attack the rim, with aggression, and look for guys, sliding down the baseline. Look for Green on little bunnies and layups, and Looney the same way. But to me, that's the counter to what Sacramento's going to do. Sacramento's quick. They're going to extend their defense, and that's great. That's gonna bother Steph, bother Clay, crowd them, make it more difficult for them to score. What's the neutralizing point? Sneak in behind them with Kuminga and Wiggins and go to the front of the rim. And if you either you're going to get dunks and layups, or you're going to the line. To me, that's the adjustment for game 2. I mean, I don't know that Sacramento could cover Wiggins or Kuminga with that kind of space in between, the outside and the inside. I mean, it's like I would love to see that. And I'll say this, even though Kuminga's a young player and Wiggins has been gone for 7 weeks, I really trust those guys' reliability and efficiency going to the hole to finish, to either draw the foul or to finish at the rim. So, I mean, Wiggins is a veteran who knows all kinds of ways to, be creative finishing. Kuminga is just an athlete that just cannot be matched. To me, the fact that those guys really weren't involved that much to neutralize that was a wasted opportunity right there.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm visualizing that sequence in my mind while the game is happening. And the Warriors tried to do that several times with Looney. But as you said, Looney is not an explosive player. So when he squared his shoulders to the basket and it went to the rim, they didn't have any fear because he wasn't going to finish on top of them. Remember the time in which he got the ball behind the Warriors perimeter players, he turned, he took a dribble, and he threw a bounce pass to a GP2. And he scored a couple, and he walked on a couple. So they were trying to do that, but they were using the wrong personnel. I think next game you will see Wiggins diving into the middle for that return pass from the Warriors guards and squaring to the basket to soar on top of them, or pass the ball to another finisher. So I think you're right. They didn't make that adjustment enough in the second half, but I think they will in game 2.
Yeah.
Mikey says, well, first of all, Gammon Brown, bigger miss, Wiggins or your Trey prediction? Gammon. Let's, I said they would trade him during the draft. The draft has not arrived. All right. Let's give that thing some time to breathe, my man. We'll see where it goes. We'll see. There'll be plenty of time to take your victory laps and dunk on yours truly. But I do believe that's coming. We'll see. I've been right before. I've been wrong before. We'll see who's right this time. Go ahead, Frank. You got a thought on all the Trey Lance rumors of the week?
No.
Oh.
I trust you on that. I mean, I want to see it happen, but it's logical I mean, my knowledge about the NFL, I don't cover it nearly as closely as you do, but it's logical. Get Trey out of here, man. I mean, go see if he can ball. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if they're in love with Purdy the way that they appear to be, I like actually Sam Donald better. I've always been a Sam Donald guy. At this point,
hey, guess what? By the way,
what's up?
Jordan Elliott was on with me the other day, and he was at the Niner rookie pro day the other day, and Frank Gore was there, and Frank Gore was talking up Sam Darnold. Frank Gore, was teammates with Sam Darnold with the Jets, and supposedly was holding court down there with the media, saying all kinds of great things about what he thinks about Sam Darnold. I thought that was really interesting. And then the other thing of the week was the Yahoo reporter coming out and saying that, the 49ers, if they get a second-round pick, will trade Trey Lance. Now, where's that coming from? And why does that guy, Charles Robinson, who's not a stooge, why is that guy putting his name to if they get offered a second-round pick, they'll move him? Because somebody obviously told him that if they get a second-round pick, they're moving him. So, all these people are triggered. Here's the other thing. Here's, not to interrupt you, but just the one last thing on this. Forget who you like. Forget if you like Brock or if you like Trey. I think the one thing that's kind of undeniable is the 49ers have two young quarterbacks who both are on a starter's trajectory. So that probably means they're moving one of them. And I don't know if it'll be Purdy or Lance, but they got two starting quarterbacks in a league that there's not enough starting quarterbacks to go around. So something tells me they're going to move one of those guys, whether it be on draft day, after the draft, at the trade deadline, next year. They're not both going to be here just forever. So, somebody's going to have to go. And at this point, if they went, what would be, people are saying, it'd be reckless to trade Trey Lance right now with Brock Purdy being hurt. It probably would be. But would it be more reckless to move Brock Purdy and hand it to Trey, who hasn't proven that he can play yet in the NFL? That might be even more reckless than handing it to Brock and saying, Brock's going to be healthy. So we'll see. We will see. There's, I laid out what I think and why I think it, and a lot of people confuse predictions with, like somehow I'm wishing for it. I'm not wishing for it. I'm just predicting it. At this point, though, I've gotten so much pushback on it that maybe I am starting to wish for it. Guys, go ahead, Frank. Go ahead. You wanted to jump in.
Well, just everything that you know about football and Kyle Shanahan tells you that he loves the quarterback out of UCLA, Thompson. All right. And they've
met with twice now in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Dorian Thompson, right? And
Dorian Thompson Robinson, DTR.
And money is always a factor with the 49ers. So if you like Trey and you've invested a lot, you got to pay him a pretty big salary, potentially not to play. When Geno Smith ascended last year with Seattle, he changed the apple cart. Sam Darnold now can still, in his mind, view himself as a starting quarterback and not just a stopgap guy. He has that type of ability. I don't know if he'll start, but he has that type of ability. And Lance has kind of run his course with the 49ers. It's time to kind of put up a shut up. If he can't beat out anybody within the 49ers organization, should he be there now in year 4? I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, I like Lance, but I
like him too.
If their evaluation is they want to go with Purdy, it really comes down to one thing, and we'll go back to the Warriors because I know everybody wants to talk Warriors tonight. We got plenty of time to talk Niners, the draft coming up on the 27th. But it really comes down to one basic question. What do the 49ers at their core prefer? Do they prefer a competition between Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, or Trey Lance and Sam Darnold, and then Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, or Trey Lance and Sam Darnold? Do they prefer that competition, or do they prefer a pecking order where they clear Trey out of there, promote Brock, go forward with Brock, and have a more defined quarterback room where Brock's your clear one, where Darnold's your clear 2, and let's just say for the sake of the conversation, DTR from UCLA is your clear 3. And if you ask me, what do I think they prefer? I think they prefer that. I think they prefer, Brock is our starter, Darnold is our number 2, and DTR is our number 3, and it's very clear, and nobody's debating anything. And I also think this is a lot about them feeling like, because they know Trey's not a backup. I mean, if Trey and Lance were a true backup, they would just let him sit. You're a backup, sit. But they think he's a starter. He thinks he's a starter. They know that he deserves a right to go become a starter, or at least try to become a starter. And if their evaluation is that Purdy's their best quarterback, then they're probably going to move on from Trey and give him that opportunity somewhere else. Now, it's not going to be for the Rams. It's not going to be in the division, and it probably is not even going to be in the conference. But if it's D'Amico Ryans and maybe Adam Peters and Bobby Slowick and the 49ers South there in Houston in the AFC, D'Amico just signed a 6-year contract. That's stability. I think they could look Trey's parents and his agent and Trey in the eye and say, hey, look, it's not going to work out here because we're going with Brock. But you know what? We'll send you to the Texans, and they're willing to invest the next 3 years in you and only you. It's interesting because the rumor of the week is that this cognitive test that supposedly Bryce Young took and all these quarterbacks took, that got Bryce Young from Alabama got a really, really high score. So did Trey, had a high score. So did Brock, have a high score. This is like the new chic test. Well, the kid from Ohio State, C.J. Stroud, had a terrible score. So there's a lot of speculation that that if Carolina goes Bryce Young at 1, that Houston doesn't want to go with C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson or Will Levis at 2, and might go with Will Anderson, the star edge rusher out of Bama, and then might be willing to trade their 2nd or 3rd round pick to a 49ers for a Trey Lance. That's the thing. And to me, that makes perfect sense. I mean, perfect sense. Now, the question is, and now it gets into this. We'll get back to basketball here, but a lot of people are saying, you know what, Trey Lance isn't worth a high 2nd round pick. But when I had Matt Barrows on from the formerly of the Sacramento Bee, now with the Athletic, covers the Niners, he had the other perspective. He said, hey, you know what, that's not enough. The high 2nd round pick the Texans have isn't enough. So who knows? Texans have a high 2. They get 2 3s. I'm sure if they want them bad enough, there'll be a deal to be made. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. And I would not take any victory laps, assuming any outcome on any of that. It wouldn't be a complete show if we didn't have this one. F the beam. But, there you go. That beam thing is unbelievable. And I asked Jason Ross about it. He said, yeah, there's a guy in the Kings promotion department that came up with it. Guys, I mean, Danny, you're a businessman and you've seen a lot of different, things in business. Frank, we've both been around the block. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a great talk about something that just took off like wildfire. And I guess from talking to Jason Ross, he said that early in the year, it wasn't that big of a deal. And then suddenly they got a win. They were on the road, and De'Aaron Fox tweeted out light the effing beam or something, somebody light that beam or something like that. And then it became once the fans knew that the players were into it, it really took off. But to me, it's very cool. It's a marketing idea, and it's unique.
It's pretty
and
cool.
Creative.
I'm seeing that, a lot of these slogans are 3 words, strength in numbers, light the beam, and nothing like it. Giants
nothing
baseball.
Like it. Yeah. Nothing by the end of the month, it will be changed from nothing like it to nothing to see here. Nothing to see. Remember if you're Leslie Nielsen, everything's blowing up in the background. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Please continue on. Nothing to see here. Poor Giants. The Giants have no pen. Oh my God, what happened to the Giants bullpen?
I love Sacramento, man. I mean, again, I said before, I said again. If it wasn't for Sac, there's no Frank Red. So I love them. But I got to tell you, I'll take the beam 100 times out of 100 over the Cowbells. All right. So to me,
yeah. There was a few of those tonight too.
We can leave those at home as far as I'm concerned. All right. Like the beam every night if you want to. And the other thing is, I'm a major fan of Batman. All right. So when Gotham needed help, they needed to talk to the guy. What did they do? They lighted the beam, man. So I immediately made that connection. It's like, yo, man, that lets the city know that everything is right in Gotham. And I think that's what it stands for, right?
We got this one.
Yeah.
GTC Real says GP2 starts Wiggins on Monk, then let the chips fall. What do you think? What do you think of that?
GT2 starts in place of who?
Probably DiVincenzo.
DiVincenzo? I don't. Yeah.
Monk's not gonna start.
Well, no, I doubt it would be Curry.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Could
don't
you
think.
imagine?
I don't. Yeah, I don't think Wiggins will probably start. I think. I mean, they played pretty well, the Warriors, tonight. I mean, they just got to clean up the boards. And how
Aussie
were they
Rules
on
says
total?
They need to
turnovers
box
tonight?
out. They need to
How
box out.
How were they on the turnovers? I don't.
15 turnovers.
Okay, you got to keep that
I mean,
down below
what
12.
it really was,
Got to keep it below 12.
They were Sacramento was plus 16 points in the paint, plus 8 on the offensive glass. Those two things really stood out.
Yeah.
And then Wiggins was 1 of 8 on threes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Kings bench accounted for 50. The Kings bench got them into it. The Kings bench was carrying them. The Kings bench 55, 17, and 7 from your bench. 55, 17, and 7.
Well, yeah, Monk had 32 of those. Yeah,
that was the area. That was the area that everybody agreed Golden State had the advantage. Oh, Golden State's got the advantage on the bench, and then not so much. I mean, that's why they play the games. You know, that's why they play the games, because you just never know how this thing's going to go. Game 2, of course, set for Monday in Sacramento. Monday night in Sacramento. Is it possible that at the end of this series that we're just going to be talking about how the NBA is truly a young man's game, and that Golden State had a nice run, and it's come to an end? I mean, it would almost be appropriate if their run ended in the first round as opposed to deeper in the playoffs, because that's a you can't sit there and go, well, we coulda, woulda, shoulda when you get bounced in the first round. What do you think? Are we going to be talking about the age of Steph and Clay at the end of this thing?
I don't think so. I think they make this going to be a good series. I said, a couple weeks ago, if they meet, I says they're going to be all close games, and the Warriors in 6. I'm going to stay with that. I don't think any of these games are going to be, blowouts. And the Warriors have their, they got their hands. They got a mighty team they're going to have to beat, and they know it. And I think because of that, they're going to come out and play. I don't think in this run, even before the championship run, I'm talking about the playoff run when it started with Mark Jackson, I don't think the Warriors have ever gone down 2-0.
The last time they've lost game 1 and 2 was, I think, 2007.
Yeah, but since Mark Jackson, when they got him in,
right.
They split against the Clippers. They lost that in 7. They beat Denver. Even San Antonio, they won game 2, in San Antonio. Could have won game 1 too, but they have never been down with Curry 2-0. So that will be, if that happens Monday night, that will be a first, and that
I'm not even worried about 2-0. I mean, if Sacramento went up 2-0, I don't even think I definitely don't think the thing is over if Sacramento wins the first 2 at home. I really don't.
No, because the Warriors could come back easily and win 3 and 4 at home.
Well, not only that, I personally, we talked about this this week on 95.7 The Game. It's like I could see a scenario where Sacramento wins game 1, wins game 2. Their fans are running all kinds of smack, putting, everybody's throwing dirt on the Warriors' grave, and that's just the way they like it. And then they go back and win 2 games at home, take over the momentum, roll back into a kind of a huge pivotal game 5, and the money's on the table, and you got Steph and Clay and Draymond, money on the table in game 5. I'll take the Warriors to win in Sacramento in game 5, and wouldn't be surprised if they finished it at home in game 6. So it's like, I know people tonight. There's a lot of people who are tonight. Oh, tonight's everything. I don't even think game 2 is everything. I think it's really, this series starts in game 3, Even if and I mean, I think it's huge advantage if Golden State. This was going to be a huge quick series if Golden State swept these two. If they get one, they're still very much in control, but I still think they're way alive and totally viable to win, even if they don't get either. What do you guys think?
I see that.
I think game 2 is critical to win if you're the Warriors. It doesn't mean they can't win the series because they can. But Steph and Clay and Draymond, they're older players. And I think that at every point in the game, you reach back for a little more. And sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not there. Curry's not going to make the same mistakes of not playing his best players enough in game 2. He's not going to do that. So I think it's critical that they win. But if they don't, then clearly the Warriors can still win because they've done it before. They have a frame of reference. But, I think they need to go out and execute better. And I think they'll win game 2.
Yeah, I think you definitely see more minutes Tuesday or Monday night in game 2 with Curry and, whether it be Clay or Draymond getting more minutes because game 3 is not till Thursday night.
That's a good point.
and you're basically playing a home game when it comes to location as far as your body. There's nothing. Well, it's just a bus ride. They took a bus. So you got plenty of time between games to rest up. And then the next game after game 3 Thursday is not till Sunday. So there's only, that's a lot of time. 2 days off between each game.
And that should favor the older team, right? That's going to favor the Warriors because they're the older team. Roberto Davis says, "You still thinking Dubs in 5, Krug?" Well, I just kind of laid it out there. I think Golden State is, could win 4 in a row, but it doesn't mean they're going to win the first 4. And I always felt like this series, was going to be a series that it was going to be considerably more highly rated if Sacramento won a game 1. So now Sacramento wins game 1, and now this is a much more intriguing series than it would have been. If the Warriors win game 1, I think this series doesn't have near the intrigue. Now with Sacramento winning game 1, I think there's lots of intrigue. So I'm not saying that anybody. What do you think of how the game was officiated overall?
I don't think it made it different. I didn't have a problem with it. I don't think there was anything blatantly like,
there's not that signature blown call.
No. And
I like the tone, the physicality of the game. I thought was right there. I mean, I want to see all the games played with a level of physicality.
The only thing I will say, if you're gonna have a 3 in the key, then you can't let Sabonis have 7 in the key. You know what I mean? That last sequence, go back and count that last sequence or one of those last sequences where he got the ball. He sets up in the key. I think it was at the inbound pass. He gets it. He does a little drop step, then a fake, then another fake. I mean, come on. I mean, he was in there for a second and a half before he even got the ball. And then to carry out multiple play fakes. Come on. It was at least 5.5 seconds in the key.
There was one call that I kept rewinding it and trying to see. They called Curry on an offensive foul, hooking, I guess, Fox, and I kept replaying it, and Fox was all over him. And they didn't make a big deal of it. They didn't challenge it, but it was kind of at a key. It was moment, and I wish I could actually see a real close up of it. Because all as I saw was Fox holding him. And then I guess Curry, what did he do? Hit him in the face? Or I couldn't even – you remember that call? It was over near the scorer's table.
Yeah. What part – which one are you talking about? Where
they called
in the
an
game?
offensive foul. I think it was late in the third quarter maybe before Curry came out. I have to go back and look at the sequence of it. But that was a call that just perplexed me. I was like, where is it? I couldn't get a good view of it. I watched it like 5 times, and I was trying to see what Curry actually did, because I think if you reviewed it, you would have saw that the foul first was on Fox. I'm going to go back and I'm going to pull up the play-by because it might have been during that sequence where the Warriors had the big lead.
MF says E40 got kicked out of the stands by security. Tammy McDaniel says, Larry, if the Warriors go down 0-2, it's a wrap. I don't think so. I really don't. Andrew Cassidy with the $2 super sticker. Thank you, Andrew. We got a bunch of starred chats here.
I think Andrew wanted to call in.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay, well, by the way, Dr. George Kelly has become a YouTube member. Guys, we're dressing this thing up a little bit. We have a doctor in the house. There we go, little Dr. Kelly.
All right.
There you go.
Dr. Kelly.
There you go.
My back hurts. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we'll get Dr. J. He also is a doctor. Let's see here. We got a couple of these that we got this one. Tim Cassie says the Warriors jacked up too many threes.
Yes.
There was a lot of threes.
50?
50 threes.
53?
Yeah. I mean, listen, man. I understand that you got to have confidence in all your players, and that's Kerr, and I get that. But outside of Steph wide open, I don't want anybody to shoot a 3-point shot. I mean, as good as Clay is, I love Clay. Clay is awesome. And Poole, we didn't mention Poole because he played above average basketball tonight. Give him credit. Yeah. He played a hell of a game. He's not a good defender, but I actually have more respect for Poole after watching a Tyler Hero play over the last couple of days. Because that's his comp. I'm like, gosh, maybe I've been too hard on Poole watching Tyler Hero play, who is a worse defender than Jordan Poole. He's worse. It was terrible.
By the way, I'm watching NBC Sports Bay Area. You know who was at this game who they're interviewing? Stack Jack.
Oh, really?
Stack Jack. One of my favorite Warriors, man. He was fun to watch, man.
Good player. Smart.
How about when him and Barnes and Al Harrington, when they used to do the pat down? Remember that on the way on the
yeah.
Pretend they were getting patted down. Who would you say, if you can listen to any NBA analyst break down the game, who you can have anybody. The game ends. You can have anybody at all.
I got one guy
breaking it down. Who do you want?
Who's
the best NBA analyst?
Tim Legler for me.
We just had him on Friday. He was really good.
Yeah,
Legs. Actually, I don't know if you knew this, but Legs played with the Warriors.
I knew that.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I played against him in college, by the way.
Did you? Where'd he play?
He played at LaSalle. We played in the same league. We played in the same league.
LaSalle's in what, Philly?
Yeah.
That's where the L Train played, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. They were good. It was a
Isn't
good
that
league.
Where L Train, it didn't Jelly Bean Bryant play at LaSalle? Kobe's dad?
What? Well, before that.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but yeah, I think maybe he did.
I think that's where he played.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Legler, it's interesting about Legler. Legler's excellent, right? But not a very good defensive player either.
No.
Not a good defensive player either.
But man, the guy had serious game. I remember when he came to the Warriors, I thought to myself, who is this guy? He doesn't look like much. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, this guy can freaking play. I mean, I'd have to go back and study his game to tell you exactly what he did, but I mean, he was a pretty damn good shooter, pretty aggressive, played with, pretty good athlete, really.
He scored 47 in a college game. That's how good he was.
Wow. 47.
He scored 47 in a college game. With
by the way,
shot, but
go ahead.
no, I don't think there was a time clock at that point, but there was a 3-point line. He scored 47 points.
47. Wow. Malik Monk. Let's talk about Monk for a second. He had 45 against the Clippers, and I think he had like 12 or something like that, or 15 or something like that going to the fourth quarter of that game.
Oh, wow.
And he wound up with 45. He went off in the fourth and in the overtime against the Clippers. It was one of the highest scoring regular season games in history, I believe. He is like, I said Andrew Toney to Jason Ross earlier today, the Boston Strangler. I mean, Frank, there's a lot of good scorers and there's a lot of good bench guys, but that ability to come off the bench and just light it up is just such a cool, I don't know, it's such a cool thing to me. It's like the guys who can come off the bench and go for 30. I mean, it seemed like the league used to have more of these guys. But as far as explosive bench scorers, if I say that to you, who comes to mind? Because this kid is unbelievable, and it's like, you know what? One of the number one keys of this series is don't let Malik Monk become just this monster. If I said Fox, I meant Malik Monk. Don't let Malik Monk become just this unbelievable bench threat. And sure enough, tonight, I mean, Malik Monk was one of the major reasons they won this game. He got 15 in the second quarter. He had 32 in the game. I mean, he's just a deadly scorer, and you can't let him get going, and they did.
I'm gonna give you two names.
Who do you like?
One of my favorite Knick of all time. Before he became a starter, he was deadly off the bench. That's John Starks. Starks would come off the bench and just light people up and put 30 on the board. The other guy is, you know what? Monte Ellis didn't start from day one. He came off the Warriors bench. He used to kill people out at the Oakland Coliseum. He was awesome.
Yeah. Monte's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll give you another one. I'll give you an explosive bench scorer.
You're gonna take my guy.
I'm going to go with Tolbert's era, Terry Teagle. Terry Teagle could come off the bench. He could go for 27 off the bench.
He got it going.
Yeah. I'll give you another one from the Pistons, Vinny the Microwave.
Oh, yeah.
Remember Vinny? My God, they had Dumars and Isaiah, but Vinny would come off the bench. He could go for 30. But to me, the guy was Andrew Toney, because Andrew Toney would come in. It was just like points, more points, more points, more points. I mean, it was crazy watching him score off the bench. And Malik Monk's that kind of guy. And if you look at the numbers this year, when Malik Monk came off the bench and went berserk, they basically never lost.
Right.
And so he is, he takes so much pressure off of Barnes and Murray and some of their other starters, because he's going to score like a starter off the bench in limited minutes. And that takes pressure off those guys, because they're not really scorers per se. They're more just in the flow. But if Monk's going to go for 30 plus, I mean, the Kings are going to be tough to beat. That somehow, some way, if there's anything, I look at Malik Monk right now as like that hitter that you get to October and the guy's hitting like 470 and you just can't get him out. And you're like, my God, this guy's just hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting. Somebody turn off his water. It's like, that's Malik Monk. And if the Warriors don't get, to me, he can single-handedly win this series by himself if he can continue to just, put up big totals off the pine.
I'll give you a couple.
Who do you got?
Lou Williams.
Yeah.
Guy could light it up. Another guy, pretty similar era, Jamal Crawford.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
Oh, yeah.
Jamal Crawford. You know who was a great bench scorer? Was Del Curry.
Yes.
Del
late
Curry
in his
was,
career. Yeah, it was
yeah,
really good.
And remember this? What was he? I think he was with the Suns, wasn't it? Ricky Pierce, was he with the Suns?
Oh, he was with the Warriors.
But was he
And
with
the
the Suns too? Oh yeah.
He
That's right.
played with Nelly's Bucks.
Yeah, Ricky Pierce, Eddie Johnson was another guy from the Suns. I know that was the Suns. Yeah, Eddie
How about
Johnson.
Marshall with the Warriors to kill people off the bench.
Yeah. You
Jordan Poole, can do
yeah,
it.
Poole's in there, yeah. But to me, I think Lou Williams is at the top of the bench points all time, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Lou Williams is not, Lou Williams can score in all kinds of different ways. I'll tell you a guy who wasn't a great pro scorer, but if you're a Bay Area fan, you remember this guy. Played for Cal, Ed Gray.
C.J. Johnson? Oh.
Who? Oh, yeah.
Ed Gray.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was.
I thought you were going way back
to
to
the microwave of college. He would play 18 minutes and get 19 points.
Yeah.
I thought
I'll give you another one too. He played for the Phoenix Suns. He played for, I think, the Kansas City Kings. Eddie Johnson.
Eddie Johnson, yeah. Eddie Johnson. He's the color commentator for the Suns.
Eddie Johnson,
Could flat out shoot.
6'7". Oh
Yeah.
my
Shoot it.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally
He-
shoot it.
no
I'll
question
tell you
about that.
when you said Cal guy who played with the Warriors, I thought you were going back to the 74-75 championship team with Charles Johnson. You used to listen to Bill King say, CJ from the corner.
I'm
That
giving
guy-
another name.
That's before my time.
Bobby Sura.
Oh, yeah.
Bobby Sura would come off the bench and get it going.
Yeah.
You know,
Who didn't the Kings?
Never
Who was
ready.
the Kings bench scorer when
Bobby
they?
Jackson.
Bobby Jackson. Okay.
Yeah, Bobby Jack.
Brian Iglesias, 95.7. Brian says, great stat heading into Game 2 on Monday, per Elias Sports. Since 2013, the Warriors are 30-10 following a playoff loss. It's the highest winning percentage after a loss in that span.
That's a great stat. That is.
Heading
We're going to be joined here in a moment by a surprise guest, special guest. John Dickinson is going to join us after his 95.7 the game post game. I mean, to me, is this the one thing I'll say? And there's a lot of people who will do post game. I'm sure Size over on Locked On getting totally mad at Kerr. He's probably losing his mind on Kerr. I don't know that there's anything that I'm truly mad at. I agree, though, with Frank's point off the rip, which, basically if you missed the beginning of the show, Frank said, hey, Kerr rested Steph Curry late third quarter. Went off the floor. The Warriors were up 4. He came back on the floor. They were down 5, and that 9-point swing was monumental in the outcome of this game. And I do agree with that. The question, I guess, is then how many minutes can Steve? I mean, is that because Steph's 35? Because to me, it's like all of what the Warriors did this year, all the resting, all the load management, all the let's just be extra careful. To me, I thought you did all of that so you could let these guys play huge minutes when it really mattered. And now it really matters, and they're still kind of in this. We got to pace ourselves, and we don't want to extend anybody too much. I wasn't a fan of that. I wasn't a fan of that. And the other thing I wasn't a fan of is you have the anecdote to make the Kings play straight up, and that's Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga is an explosive, athletic, 6'9" guy who can finish in traffic. And for the Warriors to play him minimal minutes when Sacramento's extending as much as they were, and to not have him attacking the rim, and for him to go to, one, play as few minutes as he did, and then 2, to have like no rebounds and no real impact. I just thought that was a missed opportunity. To me, if they want to extend on Clay and Steph, that's fine, but you have to go kind of like go backdoor on them with Wiggins and Kuminga and make those guys attack the rim, and either draw the fouls and go to the line and get Sabonis and Lyles and their bigs in foul trouble, or get layups for Green sliding down the baseline. But either way, that's got to be the adjustment for Game 2. They've got to figure out a way to make Sacramento pay for extending that far out. If you want to guard Steph Curry 28 feet away from the bucket, there's got to be a price to pay for that.
Yeah, here's the other thing. What you have to do is, and Draymond does it quite often, I think Kuminga can do it also. Whomever catches the ball behind the defense, if they're cutting off those wing passes, cutting to the basket, just drive the basket yourself. All you got to be is one guy. There's no help. The help is guarding. The help is hedging on the wing, so there's no help there. You got 2 guards out front. You have the guy catching the ball over the defense, and then you square your shoulders. You got wings on each side. There's nobody except the guy who's guarding you. Take him to the basket and score. And that's Kuminga's game, really.
Yeah, it's exactly what Kuminga is kind of borderline unstoppable at. And for them to, have a situation where, he's out there, but not very much, and then not to utilize him, that was frustrating to watch. Also, what'd you think of the way Sacramento got Looney in a lot of pick and roll situations? Thought that was effective on their end.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I think the Warriors will make adjustments game 2. They always do. This playoffs is always about adjustments. Um, I would anticipate the game being lower scoring game 2. I would think that the Warriors, a lot of times you might even see them start running the offense through Draymond and letting Steph just, instead of letting Steph kind of run around and create backdoor cuts and stuff like that, where, two guys go after Curry for a 3 where they're setting a screen out there for him, and then one breaks to the hoop and Draymond hits him with a bounce pass for a layup. That may be ways that they try to get Steph more open. I would love to see Kuminga develop. You're not going to see it in this series because it's not a part of his game much, but what Draymond does, imagine Kuminga running the offense through Kuminga at the high post where he can, spin and just take it to the hoop because everybody's, playing out for trying to stop the threes, and he just drives and jams it. Or if he becomes the facilitator, that's a spot that I could see Kuminga really developing because you can't guard him one-on-one. You really can't. If he can learn to drive the hoop and then pull up and hit an 8-foot, shot like Kawhi does, that guy's going to be an, all NBA player at some point because he's got more talent, physical talent, I think, than anybody on the court.
He's an electric player going to the hole for sure. What'd you guys think of the other?
Maybe not talent's not the right word. I'll say athleticism.
Well,
That's a better word.
Yeah, if this were a superstars competition, he'd win. If this was if there was an NBA combine, his agility drill. They do have an NBA combine, and I bet you Kuminga's numbers were crazy good. What'd you guys think of some of those other games today? Sixers went up on the Nets 121-101. Celtics beat the Hawks 112-99.
Expected.
Those are expected. But how about the Knicks beating the Cavs in Cleveland? Donovan Mitchell had 38. I'll tell you, who's an underrated player?
Jalen Brunson.
Well, I was going to say Brunson, but Hart. Hart is a winning player. Is it Jason Hart?
Yes, Jason Hart.
Yeah, he had 17 and 10 off the bench in 33 minutes for the Knicks, and Brunson had 27 for the Knicks, 19 and 10 for Randall. But how about the Knicks beating the Cavs in Cleveland? A lot of people had the Cavs as kind of a chic title contender. At least a team that's definitely on the uptick. And for the Knicks to get game 1 on the road, that's a shock, huh?
Yeah. What's the saying in the NBA? A series doesn't begin until a road team wins. Yeah, now you got a real series there. So I think that's a 7-game series right there. The Knicks Cavs.
I think probably 6 or 7. But hey, man, Jalen Brunson is one of the smartest, toughest, most disciplined point guards in the NBA. He's exactly what the Knicks needed because last year and the previous years, when the ball wasn't in the point guard's hands, it was in Julius Randle's hands, and disaster was around the corner. Now he can be a complimentary guy, a really good player, all-star caliber, but the time that the ball is out of his hands, it helps the Knicks. The Knicks are much smarter now. They're better defensively. I love what they're doing. I don't think that they're better than Boston or Milwaukee, but they're going to beat Cleveland, and they're going to beat Cleveland because of Jalen Brunson. Hart, he reminds me of DiVincenzo. Those guys who go to Villanova get a master class of how to play basketball. Mikal Bridges, all of these guys. Jay Wright is so smart and so committed to teaching these young men how to play basketball. And as fans, we get a chance to watch it. So I love the Knicks. I love the Knicks. We haven't won since 1973. And to see them progress the way they are, man, I was smiling throughout that particular game today. I loved it.
We're bringing in JD from 95.7 The Game, the great John Dickinson, who just wrapped up, I'm sure, Warrior postgame on the radio, and now joins us on the Krug Show from Sacramento.
Yeah, I'm in cell block D here in the bowels of Golden One Center with the block walls behind me. Good to be with you, gentlemen. Frank, good to see you, my friend. I know it's been a minute.
What's up, brother? My guy.
Let me make Larry feel.
We're bringing it back to the KHTK days, man. We got Frank, we got JD. I had Jason Ross on the Krug Show earlier today. Danny, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I'll make you feel the odd man out. Here, all right, there we go.
Well, Frank remembers me when I had a full head of hair.
Yeah, I used to have some too, right? Remember?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So JD, what'd you think? We've been chopping it up. We've been going for about an hour and 35 minutes so far. Probably going to go another half hour or so till 11 o'clock. But give us your thoughts. What were the Warrior fans on 95.7 The Game saying about this one? What was your primary takeaways? I'm sure you had a number.
Yeah, number one, it was, I thought, a terrific basketball game. Not necessarily aesthetically at times, but from just a competitiveness standpoint. I thought both teams they got after it. I think they took from the energy in the building first and foremost. I mean, the home playoff game for the Kings in 17 years. And there was a lot of question coming in, how electric would it be? Would there be a lot of Warrior fans there? I'll admit it point blank. I thought there were going to be a lot more Warrior fans in the building than there were. It was probably 90 to 95% Sacramento Kings fans. And they were ready. They came with 17 years of not seeing this caliber or level of basketball ready. I mean, they let it out. It was, we believe, Warriors-esque. I think it was old Sacramento, early to mid 2000s-esque. It was even, going back to my childhood growing up in Sacramento. I mean, it reminded me a little bit tonight of 1996 when I was a youngster and they came back and played Seattle in a first round series that was 1-1 in the old best of 5 days. And the crowd gave him a 30-minute standing ovation before tip-off. That was the kind of energy that was in the building tonight. I thought the Kings were a little tight early, missing some shots that they normally make as they get into their flow. I don't think the Warriors took advantage of it, frankly. They were sloppy. They took some bad shots. And I think early in the game, they let the Kings off the hook. And it was a close game into the first quarter. It was a close game up until the midpoint of the second quarter, until the Warriors got a hold on it. And then the Warriors obviously able to take a little bit of control in the third quarter, but Steph Curry goes out. The Warriors did an exceptional job on Sabonis, stopping him in the post, Kevon Looney and Draymond and guys digging down and just making life difficult for him to get comfortable. But he kept fighting and scrapping and working the offensive glass. And it was a lunch pail game for Sabonis. It wasn't pretty, but he still found a way to impact the game, even though for the most part he was bad and the Warriors kind of made him look bad from an offensive standpoint. But Curry goes out. Fox goes into fourth quarter Fox mode in the third quarter. He put them on the back when, I mean, that was some I've arrived on the big stage stuff from De'Aaron Fox. That was so impressive. He starts attacking the paint. He's so good at getting in between. He can beat his man and hit the little pull-up shot before the defender can collapse on him. I thought the Warriors did a great job collapsing on him early in the game and making life difficult for him. But Curry goes out, Sabonis goes out, Fox takes over, and then all the fouling and the offensive rebounds, and Malik Monk, who is just fearless. Malik Monk, I was trying to find, who's a comp for Malik Monk? Just kind of an
I've been saying Andrew Toney.
How about Vernon Maxwell? You got a little Vernon Maxwell and Malik Monk. A little I don't care who's on the floor. I'm getting to my spot. I'm taking my shot. I may go 1 for 10. I may go 9 for 10, but I'm confident. And the Kings needed a little bit of that brashness tonight, because I think some of their guys were a little tight early and got comfortable. And then some of their guys just had bad games, but Monk, along with Fox, offset some of the other offensive games. And I look at it as a missed opportunity for the Warriors, guys. I know I'm kind of long-winded on you, but this was a chance to really put a hold on the series and put the pressure on the Kings. And it was kind of an extension of the regular season in ways too, where so much of the conversation going into the series is, are the Kings going to be able to win games in a similar fashion that they won in the regular season? They did that tonight. They hung around. They weren't perfect. They got the game into the 120s, and they were the better team in the clutch moments. And some of that was matching some exceptional shot making by Steph and Clay. Like, if you're the Kings coming at it tonight, how confident are you that you took a decent punch, withstood it, and now it's like, all right, hey, Monday night, game on. Like, and we've got the lead, and you guys have to win in our building still. And so I think there's a little bit of a shift. Not that the Warriors can't bounce back as a team that's seen it all and win Monday night and handle business and get things in order. But missed opportunity, I think, is the overarching theme from the Golden State standpoint. Impressive from the Kings standpoint.
Frank brought up that Kerr, rested Curry late third quarter. And when he went out, Warriors were up 4. When he came back, they were down 5. Huge 9-point swing right there. Do you think Kerr played Curry enough minutes? What were there people that expressed that at all? Look at the minutes that Fox played. Should Curry have played more minutes in your mind, JD?
Well, and look, Steve Kerr is not, whether he should or shouldn't, going to play play Steph Curry 40 minutes in the first game of the playoffs. Like, that's just not his MO. He doesn't do it. Now, this Warriors team's in a different position than those Warriors teams of the past, where they were clear-cut the best team. And over the long haul of a series, there was going to be a benefit in that. That's why Steve Kerr, as he explains it, he goes about it that way. But I'll tell you an area, and it's so funny because we can all dissect this for a week like we all did. And we can look at, well, where do the Warriors have advantages going in? Where do the Kings have advantages? Just from a rotation standpoint, the fact that De'Aaron Fox rests in the middle of the first and third quarters, and it naturally builds in a time frame in the game where he's going to be on the floor kind of doing his thing when Curry's not. And I think the Warriors have a little bit of a problem there now as to, how can you match them minutes? Not that you want Curry necessarily out there for defense, but you need Curry out there to be able to score. Like, a lot of this to me is the Warriors have to be able to match certain points in the game where the Kings get on a little bit of a roll offensively that they're capable of getting on that other teams can't.
Yeah, and actually, Thompson came in for Curry. The Warriors were up 8, 86-78.
Yep.
So it wasn't 4. And they came back in, they were down 101-97. So it was a 12-point swing with Curry on the bench.
Curry also is like a great drummer. He feels the pulse of the game.
Oh yeah.
So you have the score and the best way to explain it is like we'll see tonight, like a Kuminga or Wiggins or whatever. I'm open. There's 17 seconds on the shot clock. I'm gonna still shoot it. Steph Curry's like, no. His computer is assessing the shot clock, the distance between him and the defender, everything, and then he will make a decision, and usually it's the right decision. And I just think that in these most critical moments where you're playing against a younger team that is not in fear of you at all, you got a coach in Mike Brown who actually, like, I watch the Kings and I study him. Mike Brown is running the split action on the Kings just to prepare his team for the Warriors. That's really not a part of their offense. But I saw him run that offense the last week when they played the Warriors last Friday, just to prepare them. Use your timeouts if you want to rest Steph Curry, all right? If you just kind of have a fixed mindset of saying, I'm going to play him X amount of minutes, you're going to lose this series. You got to play him because he means everything to the team.
One other thing that jumped out to me in this game to me, it's like when I look at these numbers, I'm thinking, wow, I really don't like the look of this. Kuminga and Wiggins took 10 threes and had combined 7 free throw attempts on a night where Sacramento was extending their defense and guarding Steph Curry and Klay Thompson deep, 25 feet away from the bucket. They're out there. and you've got two athletic, long wings. I asked Jason Ross this morning, I go, what kinds of players typically bother Sacramento? He's like, long, athletic wings. The Warriors have Kuminga and they have Wiggins, and instead of attacking the rim, getting in and forcing Sacramento to kind of play a little bit more even and honest, they allowed Sacramento to extend on Clay and Steph, and then they didn't attack the hole. They didn't go to the rim. They didn't get to the line. In Kuminga's case, I didn't think Steve played him enough minutes. Only 10 minutes, not a single rebound. Those two guys have to be bigger factors going forward. JD, give me your thought on that, because Kuminga's a finisher, and Wiggins is. My fear this week was that Wiggins would settle for threes because he shot 40% from three before he went out. He's been gone for 7 weeks. It made sense that his shot would maybe not be in rhythm, but I thought he would have an advantage on the ability to put it on the deck and go by people, because he hasn't played in 7 weeks. He's got all that extra energy. To me, they didn't take advantage of that at all.
No, there were times in this game when the Warriors were patient enough to run their offense and move the ball and cut and attack the rim. It was a layup line tonight for them. And this is the thing, when you watch Sacramento, as talented as they are, as competitive as they are, teams that are patient in running their offense can get whatever they want on the interior against them. Especially teams that have offensively talented skill guys that can get to the basket and finish and the like. I think Wiggins, 3-ball aside, and yeah, he could have taken a few less threes. He was knocking the rust off. I don't really have a problem. Wiggins was going to take a game or two to get the rust off. So him missing the shots, it's unfortunate for the Warriors, but I think that's just part of the deal tonight. Could he have been more aggressive? Perhaps. I think the way Wiggins looked physically tonight, maybe he wore down a little bit as the game went on, but I think that actually bodes well for the Warriors. I think the biggest, two things that I think bode well: the job they did on Sabonis, one, making life difficult for him to score on the interior. But I thought Wiggins looks like he's somebody that's ready to be a factor in short order in this series and play more minutes. So I think that's a positive as things move forward. Kuminga, Kuminga is a finisher, but I want to get your guys' take on it. Kuminga can't do it on his own, though. Kuminga's not even a guy the play has to be made for Kuminga in the context of the offense, where he's catching it and dunking it, or he's in transition and there's nobody around him and he'll go up and put it down, or there's one guy that he can beat with a powerful dribble and he's there. I actually think, in looking at DiVincenzo only playing 20, and Kuminga's just had a hard time when he doesn't play a lot of minutes impacting the game. But I look at a night like tonight, and I just don't think the solution is playing Kuminga more in this series. If anything, I think you almost have to get tighter and play DiVincenzo more and play Wiggins more as he gets his conditioning under his belt, and try to hunker down with the veterans. I just didn't think Kuminga was effective enough in the ways that he needs to be effective to help beat this team. Now, Wiggins is a completely different animal. I think Wiggins is the exact kind of player that crushes the Kings.
Here's what I think about Kuminga. I just think that the Warriors are going to have to employ a rotational defense next time. And either Wiggins or Kuminga, that weak side doubler at the elbow on Fox, or either a Monk, he's one of the best guys to do that. So I think that's a primary role that I would see him being used from a defensive perspective. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I think they should, because Monk and Fox can beat any Warrior one-on-one. I think they proved that tonight.
JD, what is the adjustment that you believe Steve Kerr will make going into Monday night? Is there an obvious adjustment? Because the one thing, it seems on paper that they have, between Wiggins and GP2, you got two guys that should be able to really slow down Malik Monk offensively. And the fact that Monk, you knew, was a microwave type scorer, and they still let him get off tonight. I personally believe that the Warriors will not win any games in this series where Malik Monk goes off.
No, and Malik Monk can be. I mean, he's a high variance player. Like he may have 2 points on 2 of 10 on in other games in this series and not be a factor. But he is capable of having a game like he did tonight in any moment. As far as adjustments, I still think the first, they got to not foul as much as they did tonight. Like, and part of that is the inability to keep, somebody in front of you and help gets there late. You get out of position and you're fouling guys. I think they have to collectively do a better job on the boards too. I think the Warriors got enough initial stops tonight, but they either couldn't clear the rebound or when they did get the stop, they went down the other way. And this is one area where I really disagreed with Steve Kerr tonight. He got asked the first question out in the post-game press conference about some of the shots that they took, in particular the three-point shots. And he said he didn't have a problem with the shot selection tonight. I've harped on this all week. I thought the biggest key to this whole series for the Warriors is not taking bad shots, because the Kings, they lull you into this thinking it's almost thinking that they're not that good, especially for a team that's done what the Warriors have done over the years. Like, oh, we can run with them. They're going to shoot threes and get up and down and try to get into the paint and do all this stuff and draw and kick and run, Sabonis at the high post, handing it off to everybody for three. Like they're going to do that. That's cute. Well, we're better at that than they are. So we'll just run that game. And that's why the Kings won 48 games, is because there's all these teams on a night in, night out basis who think, oh, we can run with them. And then you look up at the end of the night and you've given up 125 and it's 125, 120, and you got to come up with one big shot and you can't do it. And they walk off the floor with the victory. I think the shot selection was bad. I think Klay Thompson's shot selection was bad in the game tonight. And I just think it impacts things defensively when the Warriors are able to get stops, that they just were giving it back. Quick turnover, bad shot, 3, 10-point game goes down to 4 in a blink, and you waste all the effort from, what you did in running your offense and getting to that point. The game has to be connected a little better. I think the Warriors are living in this world where they're just used to looking down from on high and being better than everybody else. And that margin for error, even against this young Sacramento team, because they're so talented. The Kings are talented in ways that I think the Warriors are not used to seeing teams be talented and threaten them. Like seeing the Kings match Steph and Klay bucket for bucket down the stretch in a playoff game that they wanted to win. The Warriors will play it cool and all that. Like that had to be a little bit jarring for them because they just, like, who's really done that to them in series? Maybe individual games, and that's all it proves to be. But I think the Warriors have to accept that they're good enough to win this series, but they gotta attack it a little bit more disciplined than they're used to. They're used to kind of just playing their game and it's enough, and they'll pick their spot, they'll get their run, and then it's on to the next. That might get you beat in this series. And I think we saw the reasons why on full display in a game where the Kings can look at it and say, hey, we got a bunch of players that didn't play well. Herter stunk tonight, and Keegan Murray looked a little overwhelmed in his first playoff game, and they got after Sabonis, but they still won even though they didn't play that well. Like the Kings could say that too, while the Warriors are sitting over there and saying, well, we're going to do this, this, and this, and those shots are going to go in, and it's light work on Monday night. I don't think it's going to be that easy.
Yeah.
Is it a big deal that the Warriors fell into this 1-0 hole? I mean, Draymond Green said this week, hey, look, we got to come out. We got to let these guys. We got to serve a message to these guys early on. We cannot allow them to believe they have a shot. We got to take it to them in game one. Now the Kings have taken game one. Is it more than just one game, JD? In that now you've got a young, talented Sacramento team that may have had some questions that now fully believes after a win like this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the Warriors are going to have to be better, and I think they're going to have to anticipate the Kings being better on Monday night in different ways than they were tonight. It might not be Fox going for 38 and taking the game over in the second half, but it may be Sabonis getting a little more comfortable in his spots and being more efficient. It may be Malik Monk doesn't go for 32, but Kevin Huerter makes 6 or 7 threes when he went 0 for 5 tonight. So No, I mean, look, this is a long series now. Like that's just the reality. Like Draymond, he can believe that all he wants as far as, let's snuff these guys out real quick and send a message. Well, they were trying to send the message tonight. They just didn't play well enough to get it done. And now I think the Kings do gain confidence from tonight, and the Warriors have to come out and they have to just get a win. Like you get a win and everything calms down, everything changes. The onus goes on to, all right, well, can Sacramento steal a game in San Francisco? And we'll see how that plays out. But I do think the nature of these series is always, who's going to have the urgency after the game one. And it's always the team that loses. But I think the Kings, like I said, can point to as many things they didn't do well that they could correct and be better at in game two as the Warriors can. And so, like, this is a series. Like, anybody that thought this was going to be 4 or 5 games, Warriors are going to cruise. Like, I think that went out the window tonight. Like, I think the Kings are in this thing for the long haul, even if the Warriors prove with their experience and their championship prowess to be able to bounce back and win the series.
JD, do you think when Klay Thompson got the rebound with 18 seconds left, they're down 124, 123, did you like the fact that they didn't run it over half court, call a timeout? Or because, I mean, they do such a great job, Kerr, calling plays, set plays. I've seen them do this a lot this year, where it comes down these road games, they don't call a timeout, Warriors come down and they miss the last shot, lose a tough 1-2 point game. What do you think of that? Do you think they should have just ran it like they did, or do you think they should have called a timeout?
I think Steve Kerr in that moment paid a respect to Mike Brown's ability to defend, to set up a defense to slow them down. And he chose to go against a scattered defense with, his championship players on the floor, as opposed to giving, you can set up, but you give them the opportunity to set up. I think here's my take on that, though. The Warriors had 2 timeouts at that point. With 2 timeouts, down 1, I would have taken the timeout. And the reason I would have taken the timeout is because it gives you more opportunities to extend the game in that moment. You take a timeout. By not taking a timeout, you're automatically going to run the clock down to a point where you're probably only going to get, one real good look at that point. And Wiggins got an awesome look, and Curry got an okay look. I think he had more time than he thought, and kind of pushed it. But they defended him well enough. With 2 timeouts, I would have taken the timeout. I would have set up the play. I would have taken my chances that Mike Brown was gonna defend it with his acumen. But I would have trusted that the play I'm going to dial up against a Kings team that can be exposed to cuts and movement, I would have taken the chance that you could get a layup or get a 2 in that particular situation.
Yeah.
Down 1, and if you don't get it, you foul. It ended up being a scatter situation where the ball gets thrown down the court to run the clock down. Then you foul with 3. You still
2.9. Yeah.
But to me, you could have got everything you got, and maybe had 5 more seconds at the end of it to get that chance to get that 3 at the end that they ultimately got. So I would have taken the timeout, but I get the theory.
I'm trying to remember who was on the floor. I know Draymond, Wiggins, Steph, and Klay. Who was the 5th person?
It was I think I want to say that's a good question.
Dante?
I think it was Looney.
That's what I thought, and that's why I would have called the timeout to bring in another shooter. Could have got DiVincenzo out there, and I don't know. I just and I didn't like the shot selection of. Even though he was wide open, he was already 1 for 7 at that point. I would have loved to see Wiggins just drive it. He had a clear path. Yeah. He could have just jammed it.
JD, who was your pick? What was your pick at the beginning of the series, and what's your pick now?
I 6 at the beginning of the series. I got a what the have done throughout the course of or what the Kings have done throughout the course of this season. And, to me, the storyline of this series was could the Warriors do things differently than they had done in the regular season? And could the Kings basically do things the same way they had done in the regular season? And I think one game in, so far so good. But that amount of respect I put on, hey, the Kings are going to win in this series. I think the Kings are going to win one game series because they make 23s in a game, and like they're just we know with the Warriors over the years where there's just series that they're so good that there's kind of nothing you can do to really slow them down because they're hot. So they have that game still ahead in their back pocket. They're offended, but had Warriors in 6. I kind of feel like a game now. Like I almost feel way like this thing's going 7 now, and that may wind up in this same spot 2 weeks from tomorrow in a 2 minutes left in the game's tied at 120, and who's going to advance to the next round?
You're glitching a little bit, right? And that, unless maybe it was just me, maybe it's on my end, but we'll let me ask you this, JD. Game 2, is this? Steiny brought it up this week on the radio that he could picture Sacramento winning game 1 and game 2, and Golden State still being very much in command of the series, or still have a very good chance, not in command, but still have a very good chance to win the series. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought, you know what, that would be so on par. You think we could potentially see that? I mean, could you imagine the talk back and forth between Kings fans and Warrior fans if the Kings go up 2-0 and their fans start really chirping loud, and your guys' sister station there in Sac, or was it 1320 D-Lo or whatever? Who are these guys? They're going to be going to town on Willard all week for calling him adorable. Willard called the Kings adorable, and that's just not going to play well over the next couple of weeks. But what do you think? If the Warriors lose game 2, you still give them what kind of chances do you give them of still winning the series if they come back for game 3 down 2 games?
I think they could still win the series. I think they're in extreme danger, though, if they're down 2-0, because I think they are at the how do the Kings roll into Chase Center in game 3 and 4 knowing that they've got a game to play with? Like, to me, they come in playing free and easy and loose. And this team is talented offensively, where you give them a little bit of house money, and I feel like that might be the game where they hit 18 or 23s, and then you look up and you're like, well, damn, like, what do you do now, right? Like, you're going to say to yourself, if you're the Warriors, I wish we would have won game 1. I wish we would have won game 2 at that point. But it's a dangerous road. But no, the series would not be over if the Kings win on Monday night. The Warriors could come back and win 2, and then the pressure, I think, at that point shifts a little bit back to Sacramento as, hey, you had the 2-0 lead. You really challenged the defending champs. Is this for real, or are you going to collapse? Like, I feel like the advantages the Warriors have, I'm interested what you guys think of, the experience advantage, right? There are different ways that manifests itself. I think tonight, the Warriors have an advantage going into game 1 because they've seen all these different scenarios, and I think they blew that opportunity tonight in some ways to use what they had to their advantage. Now you can say, well, JD, they've got the game 2. They're used to being down. They're not going to panic being down 0-1, or they're down 0-2, and they're not going to panic. I think when you get to a point where, if you were down 0-2 and then you win 2 games on your home floor, you come back to Sac 2-2, that's a game where I think the experience plays again in a big way. But you have to get the series back to that point where the Kings feel some modicum of pressure to where what you've been through matters. Like, I kind of feel like it doesn't really matter much for the next couple of games. Like, the Warriors almost have to make that matter again, but it only matters in a game 5 or a game 7. Or or when a team like the Kings looks themselves in the mirror, because there's different ways. There's the never been through it pressure, I think, for a team like the Kings, but there's also, and Frank, I think you know where I'm going. There's also are we about to really pull this off pressure, right? where you get to a point where, oh, you're up 3-1 in the series and you're up in the next game and you're thinking, oh, we got this. And then you either stop playing or you get a little tight or you can't believe what you're about to accomplish. And that opens the door for a veteran-laden team to walk through and rip your heart out.
Well, there's a line of demarcation, and I think there is a frame of reference. I mean, Fox and Monk have played big-time ball. They got frame of reference going back to Kentucky. I mean, these guys have played big-time basketball. They're intuitive towards one another. They trust. They love each other. And you saw that tonight. It wasn't no like, oh, yeah, no, give me the ball now. No, they were playing off of each other. I think you saw that synergy. So, yeah, I think that you can build up your confidence really, really quickly. The other guy that we haven't talked about that's kind of understated, a lot of Sac Kings fans early in the year wanted him out of the lineup. Harrison Barnes played like a veteran who had won a championship tonight. He had a crucial three. He had a couple of threes. This guy's not a great shooter, but guess what? He made shots tonight when he had to make. I also wanted to ask you, last Friday night, you supposedly a nothing game, but the Warriors got an opportunity to look at Trey Lance. And I was like, oh, wow, this guy's going to be in the scouting report for the Warriors, and they're going to turn his water off. He had 16 points tonight, 4 for 6. Did the Warriors talk about that? Because I thought that was a major factor in Sacramento winning the game. It took the rookie off of the court because he was a little frazzled. And, I mean, Trey Lance was shooting driveway jumpers. I'm just kind of wondering, did Kerr talk about that? Was that someone's responsibility? What happened?
Yeah, Kerr brought that up unsolicited on a part of a more general question. He said that them allowing Trey Lance to get his first shot of the night to be a wide open warm-up style, open gym practice shot is unacceptable. And I mean, he said flat out can't happen because it gives him the confidence of seeing the ball go through. And then at that point, all bets are off as far as, once a shooter, sees one go in, the confidence. He's the type of player that really has.
Did JD glitch right there?
Well, he was great. What a way to go out.
JD,
he killed it.
There we go. You glitched right there for a second, JD. You're back with us.
Well, they got everything out. They play.
That wouldn't have happened at the Chase Center. That's all Golden One right there. That's what happens when you put all your money in the beam and not enough in Wi-Fi. JD, I don't know if is there any way you could, is there a way you could reconnect with us, JD? Because I'd love to get 2-3 more minutes from you before you jet. I don't know if JD can hear us, but
yeah, you got me now, or do you want me to reconnect?
Can you reconnect for a sec? Is there a way you can reconnect?
No problem.
I'll move him into the green room and see if we can get JD to reconnect, because maybe if he reboots, we might have a better chance to finish strong with JD. Sean Proctor says, could JD repeat his prediction? And what his prediction was prior to tonight and after tonight, because he was glitching. Did you guys get his prediction at all, or did you?
He said Warriors at 6.
He said Warriors in 6 was.
Yeah, I heard 6 in the beginning, and I think he was
7
sticking
now
with it.
Oh,
but he said he
with
could go 7. Maybe we can get him to. Mark Graves, JD's Wi-Fi is in the jail cell is up.
As you can tell, JD is absolutely a Warrior head, comprehensive. He's all over the Warriors. The other day he wrote a tweet that gave all the scenarios. Did you see that? I printed it and I was like, oh my God, this is the most comprehensive thing. It's like it could have been published. It was like that good.
Right.
So he is the guy, the right guy for us to get on here after some games, because he's been doing the Warrior stuff, aggressively at 95.7 for a couple of years, and every potential angle there is, JD's totally on from top to bottom. So if we can get him back in here, he just was
Yeah,
relaunching.
I'm looking at as I look at game 2. I think the Warriors have to bring back that playoff intensity defense that they've been famous for. The lockdown defense. I mean, they should not. I know the Kings score 120 a game, but they should not be giving up 126 points. They need to hold the Kings down below, 115 or below 110. That's where they because they can outscore them if they play better. I mean, they just got to play better defense. If this series,
It wasn't bad in the first half. I mean, in the
Yeah.
first half they held them to 55.
right, but they scored 40, 70, 71 in the second half.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
they've got to if they keep the Kings below their league season of 120, whatever they scored, if they keep them down to like 115, I think the Warriors win the series. But if this series is a high scoring over 120 every game,
Well, if you looked at the games
tough.
head to head, they were all track meets. JD, you're back with us. What do you think of the totals? I mean, we were just talking. You can't, at halftime, I'm sure Kerr and the coaches are probably pretty thrilled that they had held the Kings to 55 points. But man, Fox is, right now has this look like he thinks the fourth quarter is the De'Aaron Fox, hour, and it's just. It's something to behold to watch him operate in the fourth quarter. He elevates, and he has all year. He's been phenomenal in the fourth quarter. What did you think of the second half defense from Golden State?
Yeah, well, I thought Fox was a lot more aggressive once the game got to a point where it was the Kings were about to be in they were in a real danger zone, and I think Fox was like, hey, it's nobody else is really playing well other than Malik. And so we're gonna have to, and I'm gonna have to save this. My other number one and Sabonis is not having a good game. They're taking him out. I'm gonna start doing the things I do in the fourth quarter and the third quarter. Like the Kings like to keep everybody involved and run their offense through Sabonis and the dribble handoffs and the high post and paint touches. They like to do all that in the first three quarters, and then when the game's close, they let Fox kind of do his thing in the fourth quarter. I think there was a sense of urgency of we're going to the fourth quarter offense right now because we're about to be down 15 and this game's about to be over. And he willed them back into the game by just, I think, being more aggressive in ways that maybe the Warriors weren't totally anticipating him to. I think they maybe got lulled into, hey, this dude isn't going to try to do that till the fourth quarter. And then he did. And now I think he walks out of the building tonight thinking he can do whatever he wants. Like, I think the Kings have a confidence now, and Fox almost has a confidence where, hey, if they take Sabonis away, we can still win the game because you can't hold me down if I'm De'Aaron Fox. And so, maybe this has to be a high volume De'Aaron Fox trying to attack and make plays, and that opens things up for Sabonis if the Warriors have to attract more attention now to De'Aaron. To me, it's free throw line, though. I think the free throw line and the second chance points and also the points off turnovers. Not that there was a lot of points off turnovers, but it was a subtle difference tonight. 15-13 were the turnovers. Warriors had 15, Kings had 13, but the Warriors turnovers led to 16 points. It was a 16-5 advantage. So a plus 11 point advantage in the points off of those turnovers. I thought there were some really bad ones early that helped stabilize the Kings at moments where the game was starting to go awry. But the free throw line was the big thing as far as the point totals. And I'll just say this, Dan, I mean, good luck holding the Kings down because, I mean, tonight was, and Frank, I know you watched him a lot. I watch him a lot. Like, tonight really was like, it's not just one thing or another on it. Like, sometimes it's a hot night. Some nights it's an unsung hero. Some nights it's Fox. Some nights it's Sabonis. Some nights it's Herter hit 8 threes. Like, they have this knack of just getting enough of what they need from somewhere to where you look up with 2 minutes left, and I don't know how they get it there always, but you look up with 2 minutes left and it's 122, 121, and they're right there with the ball, and you got to get a stop. And they've just it's the story of their season. They are in many ways like that baseball team that they just always get the big hit when they need it for that season, and they the manager makes the right pitching change in the right moment, and the reliever comes in and gets out of the jam. Even if the game top to bottom wasn't great, they just come through in the big moments, and that's why they won 48 games. That's why they were hosting this game tonight.
They remind me of the 1975 Golden State Warriors that won the championship. That's what they remind me of. The Warriors had a ringleader in Rick Barry, and then they had all of these auxiliary pieces that, as you are stating, every game somebody else came through. Was it Phil Smith? Was it, so many of those guys, and that's how they play. So it's important for the Warriors to tighten it up, because when the Warriors are winning championships, offensively and defensively, they didn't leave guys wide open like Trey Lance. They didn't miss an opportunity to blitz a guy and have him beat two defenders. So I think the onus is on the Warriors to play their best basketball. As I told Larry and I told Dan, I don't think Sacramento can play better than they played tonight. I don't think they can. They played phenomenal basketball. I know the Warriors can play better, but I don't know if Sacramento can play better. But the Warriors have to play up to their level.
Yeah, there was a sequence that, and you mentioned it earlier, Frank, when they took Curry out at the end of the third quarter. But listen to this sequence. This is where I think the game changed, all the momentum. It's Curry hits a three-pointer to put the Warriors up 86-76 with 3:07 left. They come down. Trey Lyles misses a three-pointer. Alex Lynn gets the offensive rebound. Fox misses a 22-foot step-back jump shot. Trey Lyles gets another they get another offensive rebound, and he dunks it. And then Wiggins comes down, gets fouled, and then Thompson comes in for Curry. Curry had just hit a 25-foot three-pointer. When he hits a shot, leave him in, because I've seen it so many times over the years. When Curry makes one, more are coming, and especially in that time. And the Warriors had a chance to put him away. If they got that offensive rebound, they're up 10. They come down. All of a sudden, it's 8-point game, and then Curry's out. And then all of a sudden it's 91-90 and entering the fourth quarter.
He's going to stick with his game plan of limiting Steph's minutes, especially early in this run. I personally agree with you. I would have extended. To me, you got to feel that, and I didn't think Steve felt it, but at the same time, he's trying to stay
coming out after. He's trying
to stay disciplined.
He wants to play the whole third. He wants to play the whole first and third. Like, that's just the rat on the table. Curry wants to play the whole first and the whole third. And then like on a night like tonight, on a night like tonight, Curry probably wanted to play the whole second half if it meant they were going to win. They were going to win the game. But I think what Curry would want is, I'm playing the whole third, and then I'm going to rest about 2 minutes. I'm going to get the quarter break and about 2 minutes in the fourth, and you manage the score. If the Kings are cutting it down, timeout to give me another breather. I'm going to take a timeout, so I'm going to get you 3 more minutes, and I'm going to put you back in the game at that point. If I got to take another timeout with 5 minutes left, I'll do it. If if we get up 15, I might give you a rest for a minute. And there are ways. The issue is, look, the Warriors have been so great at their culture and their philosophy and their, they got the template for how they want to do things. To me, the Warriors have to look at this series not like it's a first round series. They have to look at this series like it's a Western Conference Finals or an NBA Finals series, and do some things that make them a little uncomfortable in the first round of the playoffs, because you're the 6th seed. whether you really were or weren't, or the Kings were inflated record, that your record was should have been better. It doesn't matter now. Like, you are the 6th seed, you're down 0-1, you're on the road. This was a true road game tonight. Like, the place was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable basketball, like assault on the senses. It was beautiful. It really was. As a lover of sport, but if you want to win this series, you have to do things that make you a little uncomfortable or a little outside of the plan that's worked for the last decade.
Is this a concern that, because I kind of, maybe I'm my sense of it is wrong, but I was thinking, you know what? Golden State's got to win some of the close games, because I think Sacramento may be able to run them off the floor once or twice with that incredible offense, and especially with Fox being so dynamic, nobody can stay in front of him. You got to sag in. Now you got open 3-point shooters. He kicks it out. Sabonis is to me is deadly as a passer. So I'm concerned about the blowout victory, or the blowout game that could potentially be coming. Do you look at this one as a wasted opportunity, because Golden State had the lead and it was close and it was there for the taking? And you would think, inside of 5 minutes in any of these close games, that they would, as the veteran team with all the jewelry, JD, that they would have the advantage and they would play more efficient basketball in crunch time and win the close ones. Well, tonight that wasn't the case.
Tonight it wasn't the case, and I had a bunch of numbers on this that I got into throughout the day. It goes back to that point on, is tonight going to be more of an extension of what we saw in the regular season, or something going to be different? And the Kings' offensive rating in the clutch, their offensive rating in the clutch, guys, was 10.2 points per game, points per 100 possessions, better than the number 2. They were 128.6 in the clutch. 5-point game, 5 minutes left. 128.6 per 100 possessions. The next closest team was 118.4. Like, wow. They annihilated team. Now their defense they were number 1 with a bullet in clutch offense. They were bottom 5 defensively, so you can still score on them. I thought it was interesting, not to get wonky in the numbers. The Warriors all year were a top 5 defensive team in the clutch, believe it or not. Where the Warriors where there's a gap is the Warriors were 24th in clutch offense. And I think, right. I go back to, to me, we can talk about defense against the Kings, Frank. I think you have to match them. You can't let Lyles get off, and you can't let guys split 2. That's at basic basketball. You're right, 100%. But you also have to be patient enough to let them know that, you know what, if you got to get 130 to beat them on a night, you're going to get 130, because it's that easy to do it if you run your offense.
Yeah, and I don't think there'll be any blowouts. The only blowout I could see in this series, I think I said it's going to be Warriors in 6 and that they're all going to be close games. But if the Warriors get up 3-1, I could see the Kings running them off the floor in Game 5.
I don't know. I just look at wins and losses. I don't get excited if a team wins by 20 or if they win by 2 or 3 points. To me, I'm looking at it through an execution lens. And, the teams that win in the playoffs are the teams that execute. Now, the Warriors, I don't have the stats, but I trust my eyes. And what I've seen throughout the year, either at home or on the road, the Warriors get fatigued. Their best players get fatigued. And the Warriors only really have one true all-star, and that's Stephen Curry, all right? Which means that when the Warriors extend their lead, 12, 13, 14 points, and the opposition starts to come back and they wind up winning by 4 or 5, that's okay. They still win the game. That's just who they are this year. If the games are tight and they have to depend on individual players to get them over the hump, they're in jeopardy, because there's really only one guy that can do that, who has shown that. So that's why it's crucial for them to play their basketball. And if that extends to a 15-point lead, they're probably going to win, because they'll be able to hold on and use their intelligence over the opposition. But the Kings are younger. They're fresher. Yes. And as they ascend up the ladder, other teams are also going to be able to exhibit their physicality over the Warriors. So they have to be critical when they're taking their guys out and extend the lead and hold on to it. They're smart enough to do it.
Are the Kings, to me, when I look at the Kings versus like the Grizzlies, another young team, the Kings play more disciplined, and they don't kill themselves like Memphis does with their, get out of control. And the Kings seem, and that's a reflection, I think, on Mike Brown.
Yeah, I think it's also, guys, I think it's a reflection of their two best players as well. I mean, they're both very comfortable with the ball in their hands. I think they run a tight offense. I think continuity has a huge part in that. I mean, the Kings were the healthiest team in the NBA this year. They came into the season. Their GM, Monty McNair, did a hell of a job. They made the Halliburton trade. They bring Sabonis in. Hey, we're going to have a big man. We're going to have our point guard. The big man's going to unlock De'Aaron Fox, allow him to reach heights that he hasn't been able to. We're going to get shooters. We're going to get Kevin Huerter for basically for nothing. We'll take his big contract Atlanta didn't want to pay for anymore. We'll take that kid, and he can shoot threes, and he's good in the dribble handoff game. And we'll go get Malik Monk, who is a lot more, as he showed tonight, than De'Aaron Fox's best friend. He's a sixth man that's dynamic and unafraid and can make some plays. But I think it's continuity. It's the fact that their top 8 has been their top 8 for months. Lyles joined it late. Mitchell and Monk were in it from the beginning, and they, Mike Brown has known basically since December or January the 8 guys that are going to be on the floor every night, and they practice together. They have their rotation down. They know who's subbing in for who. They know the groups. Steve Kerr always talks about groups of players. It's not about sub this guy or that guy. It's when I make these 2 subs, these 5 are on the floor together. Can these 5 function as a unit? When I pull another guy out and put somebody else in, can this 5? So you look at it in terms of 5s as opposed to individuals. Player X is this player's backup, and that you look at it as a collective. And I think Mike Brown does that. And he's got a real, complement. Like the pieces, Steve Kerr said it before the game, the pieces just fit together well. Sacramento, you've got an interior presence. You've got some dudes that can shoot. You've got Harrison Barnes, who's kind of the glue that holds it together. Fox can get downhill. You've got a wild card player in Monk. Lyles can stretch the floor as a big. The pieces just fit together well for this Sacramento team, and I think that's a big part of the reason why they are where they are.
It's skill. What do these guys have in common? They've got skill. I mean, they're Fox is a star, and obviously Sabonis is an all-star, but they've surrounded those guys with some real skill. Drew throws in a super chat. He says, as usual, NBA officials look like WWE officials calling touch fouls on the Warriors while missing Steph getting mugged and Sabonis tackling Draymond. I thought the game was pretty fairly officiated. 2 guys I got to ask you about. Senior Softball Games throws this one out. He says, JD, do you think Kessler Edwards will get some minutes? He was a factor late in the year for the Kings. Yeah, if there was one surprise to me, JD, it was that Kessler Edwards didn't get minutes and that Alex Len did, and that Len played well. He had a really nice block. He's a big guy with a lot of length and a lot of talent. I forgot about
7 boards
Len.
in 13 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, he was terrific. His plus minus was good. He's a big body, and he was good at Maryland. So I mean, it's not really shocking. But were you expecting to see Edwards? And do you think we'll see Edwards in the next game? And what'd you think of Len?
Yeah, I think Edwards is the guy that Mike Brown is probably keeping as a one in his back pocket. If I need to throw him in to cool somebody down, I'll try to. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to use him on Wiggins a little bit. If Wiggins, starts to get going some. I was a little surprised, but again, I think you never show your whole hand in the first game of a series. Len was. I feel like I should have seen the Len thing coming, because I think what Mike Brown was looking for was just an active big, somebody that you could plug in the paint to where if you try to run the Warriors off the 3-point line, you want to force them into a bit. You want to force them into a big. You want to just have somebody out there that can soak up some minutes, that can hustle and bring energy and just be a presence to be felt. And he did that a little bit tonight. He cleaned up the glass. I think they tried to take a little bit of a page out of what the Timberwolves did and have done at times to the Warriors, where they run them off and they try to filter them toward bigs that can kind of hold up in the paint if the Warriors try to attack and have a little bit of a presence in there. I was surprised. I probably shouldn't have been surprised that he played, but he made a positive impact. And you look at the the bench for Sacramento, and Davion Mitchell didn't kill him. They ran some box and one stuff with Davion tonight. And Monk obviously really helped him. Lyles made some shots, and Len was a factor. So I think Kessler Edwards is somebody that's a back pocket play, I think. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think the Warriors have a back pocket play. I mean, I was kind of going in a little bit. We were talking about Kuminga, and the key might be playing him more, but how do you really play him more when you've got other players that you also want to play more in Wiggins and
let me ask you this, JD, because Kuminga
who isn't playing for the Warriors, Dan, that would be playing?
That's what I want to ask you is because Kuminga, he didn't get any rebounds tonight, did he? Did he get one? No, none.
Got none.
Zero in 10 minutes. Is JaMychal Green, is he going to get minutes if they keep getting killed on the boards? Because who do they got to rebound?
I just a lot of times these playoff series come down to playable players, right? Every team says, "Hey, I got 10 guys who can play, or I got 9 guys who can play. This is my rotation." And wouldn't you know, like as each game goes by, one guy you think can play, you're like, I can't play this guy anymore. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times it comes down to by the 5th and the 6th game of a series, some teams have 5 guys that they trust. And obviously you're not going to only play 5 guys, but if you only have 5 guys that you trust and you're playing 6 and you're stretching 7 because you got to, then it's over at that point. And the Warriors have been better than any other team at taking teams that think they have 8 and 9 guys and making it 5 by the end. I feel like the Wiggins is maybe the Warriors' card to play in this, just playing him more minutes. I don't see anybody who didn't play tonight for the Warriors that gets on the floor in this. I mean, it was kind of, hey, your 9 versus our 9 tonight. In fact, that's exactly what it was. Both teams played 9, and the Kings were able to get more efficient contributions from their group. And if anything, I thought Kuminga. I don't want to be hard on the kid because he played 9 minutes. I mean, he didn't kill him. But I feel like he was less playable. I feel like I'm coming out of this game feeling he's less playable than looking at wanting to play him more in the next game, if that makes sense.
See, I don't get that, because my whole thing on that is, how are you going to make Sacramento pay for extending their defense that far out on the floor on Steph and Clay? You got to figure out some intermediate attack to go to the hole.
But he doesn't have a handle.
He's got no handle. But I was thinking maybe you get it. Maybe you can get the ball to Draymond, who could get the ball to Kuminga or Wiggins.
The
to
Dallas
finish.
Game. It's the Dallas game, Kuminga. Remember the Dallas game a couple of weeks back where it was all cut, and Dallas is a porous defensive team, worse I think even than Sacramento. But it was all Kuminga. I thought that was one of the best games Kuminga's ever played, because it was, I think he had 9 buckets and he got to the free throw line, and it was 2 corner threes that were off of the context of the offense. He's in the corner. A good shot that's created must be taken. He takes it in the rhythm of the offense. He knocked down, I think, 2 out of 3. You're not always going to hit that shot, but that's fine if you take those shots from the corner. I don't like him taking anything up at the top or on the wing from 3. It's got to be corners. But in that game, it was cuts, and it was.
He's a finisher. He's a finisher.
He stole the ball twice. Putting ball pressure, out at the top. He stole the ball twice and had a dunk and a layup off of that. the plays have to be made for him in the context of the offense. I'm with you, Frank, from earlier when you said, hey, I think there's a defensive role for his athleticism to try and stand up some of what the Kings are doing. But it's got to be the right combinations to where I feel like Mike Brown hunted Kuminga when the Warriors had the ball tonight, in that, hey, if he's out there, we want to put him in positions where he gets it at the top of the key and he doesn't know what to do with it. Do I take this three? Do I put it on the deck? Like, I think he got him a couple of times, but I think they put him in positions where he made some bad plays too. And the bad plays helped the Kings run it back the other way and score some buckets.
I don't have the stats for this, but just watching the Warriors throughout the season and watching Kuminga, he plays well when the Warriors are winning by a larger margin. He doesn't play as well when the games are really, really tight for some of the reasons that you guys are alluding to. When the games are tight, you need the ball in Draymond's hands because he's going to make the right play that leads to a bucket. Kuminga, there's a little bit of hesitation there. What am I going to do? Am I going to take the shot? Am I going to drive the basket? Will I make a pass? Because he's actually made like 2 or 3 interesting assists this year, but it's not quite natural. But when the game is free-flowing and the Warriors are really getting into people, he looks really good because his package extends. He can fly to the basket. He's a better shooter than we think he is at this point. He can steal and go down and score on the other end. But in close, pressure-oriented games, he's not quite as effective as I think he's going to be in the future.
I got another question for you, JD. DiVincenzo and GP2 each got 20 minutes, and Poole got 22. Who do you give more minutes to in game 2, and who's do you take away from? Because Clay played 37.
I mean, Clay's going to play his 37, I think. And, I mean, I think that's just price of admission. I was wondering a little bit about Draymond tonight, believe it or not to switch the topic. I mean, he only played 33. I know there was some conversation in the post-game press conference from being here in Sac that he went to the tunnel at one point. I'm not sure if that was something that was caught on the television, like he was off the bench for, like, maybe he was getting something tended to or something like that.
I saw him limp a little bit, like his knee.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Sideline.
We'll see if he pops up on the injury report. I think I think the Warriors they have a little bit of a conundrum in looking at mapping out the minutes, I think, for the next game, because I'm kind of with you. You want DiVincenzo to play more.
Right.
How do you
At least I like him to get 25 minutes.
Okay. You might want Poole to play more. Like I thought Poole was, again, effective. He had a few of the typical erratic, layups or a turnover here. Like he did the bad Jordan Poole things. There were a couple of plays, but he also did the good Jordan Poole things. And I think his game plays well against Sacramento because he could get to the basket and take advantage of the fact that they don't have rim protection if he picks the right spots to do it. So I look at DiVincenzo's 20 or 19. I'm looking at Poole's 21. I'm looking at it as if I want to play both of those guys more. I think 20 for Peyton is probably his physical limit. You'd love to have him play more, but you also want to have him continue to be available to play every game in the series, especially now that it looks like it's going deeper. But I'll kind of ask you guys, like, how would you – if somebody's going to play more, who's going to play less? And I would look at it as DiVincenzo I would like to see play more. And Poole, even if he plays like he did tonight, I would be okay with playing more. But who's playing less?
What's Poole's calf status? Didn't he hurt his calf in this game?
Yeah, he took.
Did Steve talk about that at all in the post game?
He took a couple of spills. It didn't come up because he kept playing in the moment. So I don't believe. And I'm checking my notes here. I jotted a bunch of things down from the press conference before I went over to do the post game, but I don't think that came up. So that's another one of those FYI for tomorrow. Keep an eye on things.
With Wiggins playing more, does that take the 10 minutes away from Kuminga?
Well, that's I mean, Kerr hates playing 8. I mean, I think he would almost deem it as a panic move maybe to play 8. And I think the Warriors, for as much as we've talked about. Hey, the Kings did these things well. The Warriors, what's their mindset? I will say this: the Warriors are very confident and calm and collected in that tonight. is not a big deal. Like, I think maybe I and some of the callers and the listeners were kind of coming down my road as if, JD, you're a little wound up tonight thinking this is a bigger deal than it is. I think a lot of the Warrior fans are taking on the temperament of the Warrior team and the Warrior players because they've seen them be down in different situations before. So I should point that out as somebody here and kind of getting the pulse of it. They're very confident that, hey, they're going to check these boxes that need to be checked in the next game, and it's going to be a different outcome because of it. There was the tone from them was, hey, the Kings, it's kind of like what Frank said. The Kings did a lot of things really well and needed to hit a few shots, to go toe-to-toe with us down the stretch. They did it. We weren't quite as buttoned up as we're going to be, and now it's on to Monday night, and we'll make those changes, and they won't be as good on Monday as they were tonight.
I just look at like defensively, right? Like, I've coached before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got a shot clock. If it's late in the shot clock, when the guy is coming off the down screen, like some of those Kings players were to get the ball foul line, at the 3-point line, just switch.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait to the last second and just switch. The Kings made a lot of uncontested shots. My problem with tonight's game was the Warriors made quite a few contested shots.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings made a lot of uncontested shots. So what that says is that you need to play better defense. Defense wins. You look at the Knicks today against Cleveland. It wasn't a beautiful game, but the Knicks played tougher, better defense.
Well,
and
the
that's
Warriors,
what the Warriors have to do.
Yeah, the Warriors have to make Sacramento feel their presence.
Yes.
Much more than they did in this game. There's no question. JD, one last one before we end this thing. I was expecting, with this only being like 95 miles north and as deep a pockets as so many Warrior fans have, that that a good percentage of Warrior fans would have found their way into that arena, and it did not happen. It felt like the Warriors might as well have been, halfway across the United States. I mean, they didn't seem like they had representation in the arena. How does that get done? I mean, do you have any idea what the Kings season ticket base is? Because otherwise the tickets are on sale to anybody, right? Are you telling me that Sacramento found a way to keep the Warrior fans out of their arena? I mean, is it to me, I'd love to get more information on how exactly that happened, because there's a passionate, very wealthy group of Warrior fans that would have loved to purchase those tickets and somehow got shut out. I mean, and maybe I'm wrong, because on TV, JD, it looked like all Kings fans. You were there. What percentage of the crowd do you think was Golden State?
You're not wrong. It was over 90%, if not 95%. It was I was stunned. I was, and maybe I shouldn't have been. Somebody that grew up in Sacramento and went to games at the old Arco and covered games there. Frank, I know you were there in that day a lot. Like, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but the Kings fans brought it. They either didn't sell, or they were the ones spending on the secondary market. And they, this was an event. This was an event 17 years in the making with a
house payments be damned.
Forget about my luggage. That's right.
Walk to school.
You know what? The rent is going to have to wait.
Right. I'm hungry, Mom. I'll feed you on Thursday.
Exactly. I mean, Frank, it felt like Memphis or Oklahoma City tonight. It really did. Like, it was.
Who needs heat? Nobody. No.
I'll tell you from a
it's
TV
about to get
standpoint,
hot anyway. You're in California, right?
Yeah.
No, that's.
I don't know what it was like being in the arena there, but from a TV standpoint, it sounded to me, especially at the start of the game, just right before tip off, everything sounded like the loudest crowd I've heard in any arena.
It was every bit of Boston last year in the finals. It really was. It was OKC, like from 2016 when they still had Durant. I covered that Western Conference Finals series. Memphis was an awesome vibe last year. When they get Memphis is a cool vibe, man. When they get that joint rolling and people are fired up, and their team, I think in a lot of ways takes on the vibe of their city, which I think that, everybody embraces it, which is kind of cool. And I think, the Kings fans deserve a lot of credit for saying, "Hey, we're not having this." I think there was a lot of talk about it in the media this week too, as to, "Hey, don't let it happen. Don't let it happen, Kings fans," and they didn't.
Yeah, JD, didn't you down in Memphis and Hasseltime take you to the spots that nobody knows about, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, you know it. Oh, you
most
know it.
the most overrated big publicized street of all time, in my opinion, is Beale Street in Memphis.
There's a lot of other places to go in Memphis that are real nice.
Shante Ortega says, "Did JD get to rub elbows with 50 Cent?" Did I read that right in the chat that E40 got escorted out?
Yeah, and that's another one that I'm going to have to follow up on. Yeah, E40 was sitting down by the Warriors bench, and it looked like there was, during one of the timeouts, some kind of verbal altercation between him and a fan, and I think it was a cooler heads are going to prevail, so we're going to remove you as opposed to remove the fan, which I thought was an interesting twist. And
they sided with a fan over E40.
It looked like
they know E40's a Warrior guy.
This ain't a home game for E40. This ain't a home game for 40. So yeah, there was a little of that, like, some of that bravado. I mean, you guys remember? I mean,
Robert from Garden Highway gets prioritized over E40.
Wasn't going to be sitting behind the plate at Kansas City with Madison Bumgarner doing his thing, standing up after every pitch. Y'all remember that? Like, when E40 was right behind home plate in Game 7 of that World Series. It was like, hey, we're not having that in this building. So that I'm not sure what was going on, but security, I think, found 40 a nice suite maybe on the lower level to retire to for the evening.
I have a feeling we're going to see Logan Webb out there before this series is done. I could see him lighting the beam or whatever.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Look, it was great. It was a great atmosphere again, and I'll say this: a lot of the people. I got a lot of friends still in Sac. I got a lot of family in Sacramento. The conversation for like their talk radio has been, hey, it's 500-600 to get into Golden One. It's only $250 to get into Chase. Like, so if you can't get in tonight, then spend your $250 on trying to get to Chase next weekend. And like, I could see Warrior fans that have been through this first round thing a time or two, just wanting to get what they can get for that. Like, I would be a little concerned. I'm just going to say this right now. If I'm a Warrior fan, I'd be a little concerned with more Kings fans being in Chase than I'm comfortable with next weekend on Thursday and Sunday. That just don't be surprised if, just throwing it at you here on a late Saturday night.
I've got Grant Napier on the show tomorrow morning. So we're going to keep the 1140 theme going. If you don't like that, and I think he might have picked Warriors. I don't know. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'm just glad that my brother hasn't contacted me. I can't stomach it. He's a traitor. We were Warrior fans. We grew up in the Sunset. We're Warrior fans. Now he lives in Natomas and he's lighting the beam. You know what I mean? He's lighting the beam and his kids are lighting the beam. JD, thanks for doing yeoman's work with us, man. Doing the late night deal, dude. Had so much fun filling in for Dibs this week and just laughing with Willard. By the way, is Mark any mention of Mark Willard up there? Willard called the Kings adorable. I got to think that all drinks, if he goes to Club Toomey, his drinks are probably 7 or 8 times the normal price. Mark Willard will not be able to get a table at a restaurant in Sacramento for the greater in the greater Sacramento area for the future. No, but he called him adorable. Any pushback on Willard gloating over this series? He'll probably walk it back on Monday, but he was calling the Kings adorable. Kind of patting him on the head, that kind of patronizing kind of, you're adorable.
Nothing that I heard specifically as it relates to Mark, but I will say I do think there are a lot of people that thought of the Kings a certain way, maybe because of their history, maybe because they haven't watched him play a lot this season and just saw the highlights or looked up at their record and checked in and thought, oh, wow, they're having a really nice season. Like, what's going on there? Winning the Pacific Division, which isn't a big deal on the surface. But I do think you could make a case that, hey, you win that division this year with Phoenix and the Lakers and the Clippers and the Warriors as the other 4 teams. Like, that's not nothing. Like, you don't need to hang a banner for it, but that's not nothing. Like, that's an accomplishment to be the best team among that group really any year when you look at some of the players that are on the other side. But I think there are a lot of people that didn't maybe have an appropriate fear of Sacramento going into this series from a fan standpoint, that look at the Kings now and go, okay, like De'Aaron Fox is nice. and they've got some guys that have a little moxie to their game that plays well in a playoff series. I thought this was kind of an edgy, gritty win for the Kings tonight.
Yeah.
Which
it was a veteran win is what it was.
I don't think a lot of people thought the Kings had a gritty win over the Warriors in the bag, and they showed it right out of the chute that they did, which I think is impressive and something the Warriors are going to have to adjust to. So thanks for having me, guys.
One of the concerns I had, and I wonder if you felt this at all, JD, was one quick last one for you. I know this is Sac is 3 seed, Warriors are 6. But back in the We Believe, Warriors were 8 seed, I believe, playing Dallas. And the crowd just – each game the Warriors won, you just felt the momentum shifting more and more toward the Warriors, that they were going to pull it off. Is there any kind of a feel like that with this Sac team, even though they are the higher seed, but the Warriors are the defending champs?
There was definitely 8 seed energy in the building tonight. Like that, this was not 3 seed energy. This was 8 seed energy. It really was. And I think there is a momentum building. Like, and I'm curious to see, like, do more Warrior fans get in Monday? Because, tonight was the game to be at. Like, tonight was the first, right? There's only one first game in 17 years. And maybe to your point, Frank, some of the folks that didn't sell tonight, maybe they do sell Monday night because that's how they paid for getting in. They might have paid for a couple other games.
What if Monday night, JD, it's half full?
I don't think it's going to be that, but I mean, it really was. I mean, not to make a big deal about it. I mean, I feel like I've said it 10 times.
It was history.
It was really impressive tonight. Like, I haven't seen a building like that in today's era where it's so easy to get tickets on so many different websites.
I was a little jealous. I'm going to tell you why. Because, hey, man, both arenas are great. But Golden One, for somebody who's, like, losing their eyesight, that it's not – I don't see as well as I did. It's the most beautiful place to watch a game. There's not a bad seat there. It really is.
The sight lines. A lot of great sight lines there. Awesome. I agree. I think the sight lines in that arena are really good.
Yeah.
And it's open. I love that it's open too. So you can, on the one end, it's open. So there's different gathering points, but you can walk around at any point and still keep your eye on the game, which I think is cool. And a lot of places don't have that. They do have that here. And I think that is a nice little, nice little imprint that they put on the game. It is an exceptional arena. And, as somebody that grew up in Sacramento, it is hard to believe. Every time I walk in, and I know, Frank, you worked there for a long time. We worked together there for a long time. I mean, there are times where I can't believe that it even, like, what, this building exists in the
downtown.
And in the old mall, in the old decrepit mall that was, that still has the random Macy's that decided they were still going to stay. That's still across the street.
I used to work at that Macy's. Macy's as a college student. Yeah, I needed
somebody.
Were you security? Were you security?
I used to go America Live. The club, the sports bar, the piano bar, the country bar. I mean, there was just there was a lot of.
In college, being the security guy, chasing somebody out the door down.
Never security. But I will say this: it is amazing. They used to have at River in the old K Street Mall. So somebody broke into my Jeep, cut my soft top. I had to buy a hard top. My dad gave me some money for a hard top, and then I spent it all on beer. So then I had to go get a job, and because he's like, "Hey, when are you going to put that hard top on him?" A couple weeks, Dad. A couple weeks. And then I had to go get a job working at the Christmas store at the Macy's Mall there, to earn the money for the hard top. But yeah, it's funny. There used to be, remember River City Brewing Company? It was down there in the K Street Mall. In the men's room, they had a breathalyzer. So we'd go down there, and we would take the light rail from Folsom down there, we live by Folsom Boulevard and Rancho Cordova. We'd go down there and drink, and then my drunken buddies would, let's see it, let's go into the bathroom and see exactly how trashed we are, so hitting the breathalyzer 27 times in the bathroom. Hey, JD, two last super chats and we'll jet here. Green Glass Full says he's ripping E40, says E fatty who, and then he's now ripping him again. IQ 40 is irrelevant. Now we got an anti E40. But JD, last one. What do you got going on? What do you got going on for people? If people maybe discovering you here on YouTube that don't normally know your stuff. A lot of people in the chat going, "Man, JD's all over this. This guy's terrific." Tell people where they can hear you again. When will you be back on 95.7 this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna be back for Warriors Live on Monday at 6:00. Previewing the game, leading you up to tip off. Before the game, I'll be on after the game. I'm gonna be on with Steiny and Guru on Monday as well. I think we're gonna do a full hour where I'm gonna join those guys talking about tonight and just kind of like we're doing here. And just what adjustments need to be made and the atmosphere here and all of that. As far as tomorrow, I'm going to be at practice tomorrow. So at JD John Dickinson on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm firing up the YouTube. I got the YouTube page kind of in beta mode right now. I know, Larry, we've talked about that. The JD YouTube
there you go.
Podcast is in beta right now, but I've got some things coming on that as well. And Warriors Weekly Podcast. Which is part of the 95.7 The Game stuff. I'm going to have a podcast conversation with somebody good, hopefully from Warriors practice tomorrow that will drop. And I'll put that out on social media at some point in the afternoon. But the Kings and the Warriors both are going to have practice at Golden One Center tomorrow in the afternoon. So I'm gonna hit both practices. The Warriors are staying over with only one night in between. Just like a normal road trip, and they'll try and get back after it on Monday night. And so, we'll have coverage from practice. So look for that as well.
All right, brother. You're fantastic. You seriously, most underrated guy in radio. I'm a huge fan. Of course, Frank's a big fan of yours, and Danny's just meeting you for the first time. But, dude, thank you very much,
we've been
man.
On before, but
yeah. JD's been on before, but I mean, dude, seriously.
Dan and I go back, but Frank and I go way back, and I mean, Larry and I go way back, but Frank and I go way back. Frank and I are like even farther back than you, Larry.
Yo, Larry said he had a surprise guest. He said JD. I was like, whoa, that's my guy. Yo.
Yeah,
good stuff.
I'm actually gonna go have a beverage with Sean here in a minute. He's doing his thing across the way here. So absolutely, always good talking to you, Frank.
Are you still in the at the arena or?
Yeah, he's at the arena.
Oh yeah, he's
okay. I thought maybe
pushing midnight. I'm hoping
they're gonna lock you in there.
I'm kind of hoping things clear out a little bit. Like that's like because it was. I mean, it was. Off the hook.
Is the beam still lit? What time? How much longer before the beam gets turned off after the show?
It stays lit all night.
Does it?
Oh yeah. If Larry, if you were out here and you were stumbling around riding light rail back at 4 a.m, you'd see the beam. That's
awesome.
No, they keep it lit until dawn. Then they keep it until sunup because
there you go till the break of dawn. There's somebody saying that.
We got
JD, great stuff, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, you got it.
Bye-bye.
There you go. The great JD, John Dickinson. Phenomenal. JD is just a wealth of information, great perspective, all over the Warrior tip. Great follow on Twitter. I want everybody in the chat. Close to 250 people still hanging out here as we approach midnight on a Saturday night. Everybody go follow JD on Twitter. He's a great follow. While you're doing it, go follow Big Frank Red on Twitter as well. Frank, you got a final thought on this one? Man, what a fun night. It was a rough one for Warrior fans, but man, just game one of what now looks like maybe a 6 or 7 gamer. Give me your final thought.
Final thought is I thought this was a great day for basketball fans all around the world. And it just kind of spoke to where the NBA is. We could talk about a lot of negative things, but in terms of fan interest and moving forward, we're watching some high level. I can't remember watching this high level basketball in the opening rounds of an NBA playoff. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. And man, if we can get another game tomorrow night that is this competitive, then I think we'll all be happy.
Yeah. Frank, good stuff, man. Have a great weekend. We'd love to talk to you Monday night. I don't know if you're around, but you're always welcome, of course, to join us Monday night.
Hit me up, brother. All right.
Will do.
Good to see you, Frank.
Bye-bye.
See you, Frank. Man. Take care. The great Frank Red. Yeah. He's fantastic as well, as everybody knows. Danny, we didn't talk any Giants. You got a couple Giants thoughts you want to share with us? Let me do this. Let me do this because I do have 12 12 starred chats that I want to get to. Let me thank the sponsors, and then we'll get a couple thoughts from Danny on the Giants because I do want Danny's thoughts on the Giants for the Giants fans who have stayed up late. At this, or I should say that commentary and those chats coming up. But first, a word from our sponsor. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show.
So New York style sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it, guaranteed.
All right, we're coming down the home stretch on a Saturday night on the Krug Show. Thanks for everybody joining us. Let's run through the starred chats, and then I want to get Danny's thoughts. Dr. George Kelly became a YouTube member of the Krug Show. Dr. Kelly, welcome aboard. Bomber T in the house. Sacramento is better than I thought. I think there's a few people right now driving around saying that. We've got this one from Dion. Larry says the truth. Monk and Fox outplayed Steph, and especially Clay, who was terrible. There you go. Travis A says Fitz is the king of Warriors excuses. Okay. Travis ripping. And now he's got a drive-by on Willard. He says more on Willard on 95.7. Is probably researching every excuse he can find for his show on Monday. Don't attack Mark. He's a good man. Tim Cassidy, did the Kings earn your respect? Because we weren't even hitting shots in the first half. Could have been worse. Cassidy with this other one says Warriors jacked up too many threes, 50 of them. Luke Luna, Larry, you guys said the bench would be better than the Kings this morning, and I didn't agree because Kerr's substituting has been suspect, and you guys have been on him for it. Well, you know what? You were right about that one. We got this one from MF. Says, Larry, Dan, Frank, thoughts on the possum in the Oakland Coliseum visitors broadcast booth? I did see that. There's, Coliseum. There's wildlife there. There's more wildlife than fans. The Car Gods. Moses is the key for the Warriors' success against the Kings. Too bad Kerr can't figure that out yet. He wants to see Moses Moody. Tammy McDaniel. Mike Brown said he wanted pace, pace, pace. Mike Brown wants to wear out the Warriors. He knows the young Bucks are going to wear out the Warriors. Good comment there, Tammy McDaniel. Unconditional Ocean 11. Kings fan here. Love this show. The discussions you all have been watching the last few weeks. Thank you very much, Unconditional. All right, let's go down the home stretch here. Tim Donaghy's crew. Giants should get a possum too. There you go. Tim Donaghy's crew. When will the Giants activate Correa? Oh man. Shanti Ortega, New York style sausage. Can't wait to try the breakfast sausage. All right, Danny. Giants pen. Wow. Do we need anything any more analysis than that? The Giants lost a game today that they were leading 6-1.
Yeah, 6-1.
6-1 Giants. Giants scored 2 in the first. They're up 2-0. They scored 2 in the second, so they're up 4-0. Tigers get a single run in the bottom of the second, so that's 4-1. Giants get 2 more in the third. They were up 6-1. 6-1 going to the bottom of the fifth, but the Tigers scored 2 in the bottom of the fifth, 3 in the bottom of the eighth to tie it off Brebbia, and then 1 in the bottom of the 11th off of Rodgers. I think there's going to be a lot of people walking around San Francisco going, damn it, Rodgers blew it, because there's 2 Rodgers, and they're both kind of iffy. So that's going to be like the familiar, when you think back at Giants baseball 2023 in 5 years, oh yeah, that summer where Rodgers sucked, it's like there's 2 of these guys, but Brebbia didn't, struggled. But I'll say this, I put out a positive Giants thought. I said my positive Giant thought of the day, Estrada and J.D. Davis are raking. But my goodness, the bullpen is a absolute, it's
a mess.
It's horrendous.
It's a mess right now,
it's a mess.
So I did a little show afterwards, after the game, did a post game. At this point, you can only look at this team and kind of, for your own sanity, you just kind of chuckle because they're playing guys
better than crying.
It's just like they're just playing guys out of position, and this is what you have when you build a roster that you're dead set on platooning more than half your players. You're going to end up putting guys in the game because of their bat, but not because of their defense. So they put VR over at second base Friday night. They ended up losing that game partly because of VR's inexperience, and he tries to get the lead runner at third base in extra innings. Today, Blake Sable, he's doing the best he can, but he's, he misplayed a ball.
He's just a bad defensive player. He's a hitter.
Yeah, he's a hitter.
He's not a catcher. He's not an outfielder. He's He's borderline passable at either spot, right?
He'd be great to have, going forward as a DH and a backup catcher. Here's the thing. I look at this Giants team. Farhan had 6 signings this offseason. If you count Jock Peterson as a re-sign, he was a free agent. So you got Jock Peterson, Mitch Haniger, Michael Conforto. By the way, all 3 of those guys are hurt, not playing. Roberto Perez that was an offset, but he's gone for the year. And then you got Taylor Rogers. Is it Trevor or Taylor? I always get
Taylor,
right? There's a Trevor Rogers they're going to face in Miami this week, a left-handed pitcher. So Taylor Rogers is another signing. Mania and Stripling. The only guy that's having a decent season is Mania. He's doing okay, and Conforto's doing okay. But the rest of them, Stripling's been horrible. The Haniger hasn't seen the field. All of those guys that are hurt, by the way, are on the IL, wrong side of 30. Okay? This is what happens when you get an older team. You're going to have injuries.
It's so funny. It's weird, too, because I had FP Santangelo on the show, and I'm like, I was just down at spring training, and my big concern, FP, is that I just really don't think they're deep enough position player wise, and I think they're really going to be challenged with their lack of depth position player wise. And he like pushed back. He's like, I think they've got real good depth position player wise. I'm like, really? And I didn't want to argue about it, so I just kind of left it as it was and went on. But it's April the 15th. You've got all of the rest of April, all of May, all of June, all of July, all of August, all of September. You have 5 months of baseball left. You've already promoted Ramos, Bart. You've got all kinds of guys coming out of the minor leagues. Personally, I think their depth is going to be
their
severely tested.
Oh,
severely tested.
Look at this situation, Larry. Their 40-man roster has 2 guys that are really only on the 40-man roster because they would have lost them in the Rule 5, and that's Matos and Luciano. You're not going to see either one of them probably at this point this year because they're both in double A. You could at some point. I would argue that you should bring up Matos for the next few games because you're facing lefties and you don't have any right-handed outfielders except Ramos.
I'm with you on that. I think they ought to go with the kids.
Yeah.
And people are saying, oh, it's too early to give up on the season. I don't look at going with the kids as giving up on the season. I personally, I kind of think that the kids are probably going to give you as much as some of these kind of middling veterans that they have. So,
Larry, they got 5. They didn't get 1 hit after the 5th inning today. That's 6 innings. They went 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They didn't get a hit.
That's amazing.
This is like, and what are teams going to do against the Giants going forward? They're going to stack their lefties because they don't have any right-handed bats.
Right. The lefties, Giants are going to be absolutely fodder against lefties all year long.
Yeah.
They got
their 6 runs off the righty. And then, Tigers brought in some lefties. They couldn't hit them. Until Haniger and Slater are back healthy enough to play, you're going to really struggle when you face left-handed pitching. I'm just amazed that whole off season, Farhan's point was we've got to get 4 to 5 everyday players, and we're back to the platoon thing. He used up his.
They just didn't. You can say that you need that, and they did need that, but they didn't actually get that.
Well, Gabe used up his entire bench today. He ended up pinch hitting for Sable late in the game. What happens if Bart got hurt? You're in extra innings. Now you're going to be like, who's your catcher? It's just like
Are they going to get swept tomorrow? Who's the pitching matchup tomorrow?
Yeah, they're facing Matthew Boyd, lefty.
Who they had last year but never used.
Right. And Logan Webb's going. So you would hope that, he becomes the stopper. But I don't know. They're facing a lefty. Who's their right-handed bats? You've got what?
Tyro,
Bart,
who's raking.
Tyro
JD Davis,
and JD
who's
Davis.
raking.
And
Those guys look great right now.
You're going to have Ruff in the lineup as the DH. You're going to have Flores.
Big Darren Ruff.
Yeah, they're probably going to go with Flores at first. They may rest Crawford because they're facing a lefty, and he had a really tough game today. He actually had 2 errors and a third one that they didn't actually – they gave him a hit, but it was truly an error. He should have had 3 errors. And
you got JD Davis hitting 341 with a 391 on base. You got Estrada hitting 365 with a 411 on base. Those 2 guys are absolutely dominating. Joey Bart had 2 hits today. He's hitting 375. Right. I think if there's any one positive thing so far, it's that, Joey Bart looks pretty good. I mean, how about that catch him, throw him out deal against the Dodgers the last series, and where he just put it right on the bag? I mean, that was a beautiful.
Yeah.
He is really nice looking thrower. And I kind of like what he's improving behind the plate. It's shocking to me that Farhan, kind of threw down the verbal, gauntlet on Joey Bart. If this guy's the same as last year, he's not. It won't be good enough. It's like, come on, what, you're going to draw your line in the sand on him? He's the one guy who's got crazy bat speed, who was drafted in the top 5, who actually potentially could give you a 25 home run power at a non-power position, and you're like sound like you're in a rush to get rid of him. I mean, it's bizarre. It's a very bizarre situation.
You're looking at Bart being the guy going forward. They have no other. They went from 4 catchers down to 2, and they got Gary Sanchez down at AAA. He hasn't been doing anything there. So I don't know what the plan is going to be.
Here, DeSclafani had 105 pitches, and they yanked him in the 7th inning. Despite the fact he'd only given up a couple earned runs. And here's my issue, is that the Giants go to 4 or 5 relievers on days when they're in total command. And it's like, so then what happens is that if you keep going to relievers every day, eventually they're going to be fallible. And if you're going to try to pitch 4 or 5 relievers in one game, the odds are that one of them's not going to have it. Today, that one of them happened to be Brebbia. It's somebody different every day. The other day it was Rogers Taylor Rogers walked 4. So it's like, if you're always going to go with 4 or 5 relievers, man, that's a tough way to win. It's a tough way to go, isn't it? Because you gotta, it's an awful lot of guessing right. And it's like, everybody's got to come through.
I'm looking at this team, 12 more strikeouts.
I know
Detroit had 7, only struck out 7 times.
The Giants are averaging 12 strikeouts a game.
I mean, you're not going to win games. Can't hit the ball. You can't hit in situation. You're not driving in runs. Let's see. They got 6 runs today, and 4 of them were off the home run ball.
Yeah. Oh no, they don't rally. I mean, it's home runs or nothing.
Yeah.
Danny, it's after midnight. I got to get up early for Grant Napier tomorrow, but great stuff tonight. We'll talk to you Monday night.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll see you Monday. Have a good one, everybody.
There you go. The great Dan Coach Emilio. And follow NorCal Sports Network, Danny's new channel. He's growing it day by day. All right, thanks to everybody. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to all of you. Tune in bright and early, 9:30 tomorrow. Quick turnaround. Grant Napier reacts to the Kings beating the Warriors in Game 1. Until then, we're out.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer.